The story begins with our hero on the ground badly injured, thinking only of one thing: taking down his enemy. Surrounded by fallen fighters, he holds on to that same thought while being tossed from side to side. From a distance, the villain watches the sad state of the fallen warrior on the ground with no strength left. With that, the scoundrel gives an evil chuckle, really enjoying the situation. He then approaches with an air of superiority and asks if the poor guy is still breathing. Extremely angry, our protagonist recognizes his opponent as the Sword Saint, Chronogaius. The man mocks him, saying he is pathetic and that in that body he cannot even use mana anymore. Chronogaius tells the guy to stop fighting because the Sword Saint's mana was only level 7 and his was higher. Even all beaten up and injured, the hero keeps resisting and showing his anger. The fallen warrior then replies that he does not care at all about this difference in power. He offers his fame and even the world to the villain but asks him to listen to one thing first. At this moment, we see a blonde woman in the middle of all the chaos crawling on the ground. The lady looks desperate and tries to escape the mindless ones surrounding her on all sides. But it is already too late, as her eyes glow red, showing that she has also become one of them. The protagonist gets furious and asks what that scoundrel did to his wife, Hannah. Then, a memory of a happy moment appears, showing the two of them together in a peaceful place. In the past, he was getting ready to leave, probably for some important battle or mission. His wife then smiles and asks her beloved to be careful out there, and he nods in agreement. Back to the present, the villain reveals that he simply turned her into an undead with his mana. Hearing this, our hero's eyes fill with anger and despair at the terrible truth. Gaius keeps provoking him and asks if he knows why he lost everything, including his beloved. The warrior is left speechless, just grinding his teeth from all the anger he is feeling. The villain then says he will tell him the reason, and tells him to take a good look around. He explains that in this world, man is everything, and whoever has the most power takes it all, while those who do not lose everything. Our hero remains silent, processing the cruel words of his enemy. Then he remembers his companions calling him Captain Chrono, all happy and excited. They were hopeful, saying that if they won that battle, world peace would finally arrive. But now he sees that they are all gone and curses the tragic fate of his friends. With a cruel smile, the villain says there are two things that make him very satisfied. And one of those things he loves is having an absolutely overwhelming power over others. The villain then reveals the other thing he really enjoys seeing happen. He says it is the moment when a powerful man's strength is completely broken. With that, the scoundrel casts a magic spell of purple chains that bind Chronogaius to the ground. Our hero is in shock, unable to move while being held down by the technique. The enemy warns that he sealed his mana forever and that he will never be able to use it again. He adds that the power and the name the protagonist forged as the Sword Saint end right there. Then the man tells the fallen warrior to watch everything very closely because the show is about to begin. Next, he grabs Chrono's undead wife by the hair without any mercy. The villain draws his glowing sword and tells the hero to witness his own powerlessness. Desperate, our protagonist yells for that scoundrel to stop what he is doing. But the enemy just mocks him, asking why he does not save his beloved wife. He keeps taunting and tells Chrono to show off his proud power as the Sword Saint. Unfortunately, the warrior cannot do anything and watches his opponent strike his wife. The blade passes right through the woman's body right in front of our helpless hero's eyes. Chrono is paralyzed with shock seeing the terrible scene unfold before him. In his mind, he can only think that there is absolutely nothing he can do to stop it. Lying on the ground, he realizes that mana or anything else does not matter anymore at that moment. With a deep anger growing inside him, the hero gathers his last bit of strength. He shouts with all his soul that he will destroy the one who took everything from him. The protagonist promises that the ugly smile on the villain's face will not last much longer. Chrono swears that one day he will take him down completely, and that this will not even be the beginning. With so much anger, he promises to defeat him so thoroughly that nothing will be left. The enemy just gives a little smirk, completely unfazed by the threats. He then says he will grant the hero's wish and prepares his sword for the attack. The villain dashes forward to deliver the final blow to Chronogaius, who has already accepted his fate. In the reflection of the enemy's eye, we can see the despair on our protagonist's face. But instead of attacking him, the man uses his sword to clear the area around him. Chrono is confused, not understanding why he was not the target of his tormentor's finishing move. The villain then states that weakness is a sin to justify all his actions. He says the hero no longer has the right to speak as his undead wife moves in to attack him. His undead wife and the other mindless ones rush at our hero without hesitation. Desperate, he cries out in pain as he is attacked from all sides in a terrifying scene. The woman he once loved now cries dark tears as she attacks him without any mercy. The protagonist's eyes fill with pain and anger as he is defeated by his own wife. The villain then introduces himself as Gilgren, or Proud, and tells Chrono to remember him in the abyss. As his consciousness fades, the warrior can only think about taking down that scoundrel. With a final breath, he curses his fate and wonders if he is really going to fall like this. Suddenly, a bright light appears, and he finds himself in a completely different and strange place. A mysterious voice comments that it found it interesting that he was still screaming for destruction at his end. A dark, hooded figure appears and says it likes the warrior's tenacity. Chrono is totally confused and wonders what kind of thing is standing in front of him. The creature with glowing eyes just watches him in silence in a very intimidating way. The hero panics, wondering if it could be a monster or perhaps a powerful dark entity. The entity says that even as a sword saint, he was easily defeated by Gilgren, and then the being asks if it was not frustrating for Chronogaius to lose everything like that. The shadowy figure says he wants payback, and that it will give him this unique opportunity. It promises to grant him a borrowed life and power, and to break the eternal seal on his mana. The warrior does not understand anything and asks what this life and power would be. The being explains that in a new body, he will have 3 minutes to use immense power and defeat Gilgren. Chrono is shocked and asks how he knows about that man and what he wants him to do. The entity says that in a life full of battles, he found a light that was brutally crushed. For that reason, he has no choice but to take down the Necromancer for the soul of the woman he loved. A tear of sadness and determination falls from our protagonist's eye at this moment. Suddenly, Chrono opens his eyes again, but now he looks much younger. He is floating in the exact same place as before, while objects rise into the air around him. Upon landing on the ground, he notices the place is exactly as it was before his fall. Looking at his hand, he realizes that somehow he managed to come back. But the shock comes when he notices that he is now in the body of a simple child. The creature's voice echoes in his mind, saying it will give him his long-awaited chance. Chrono then realizes the situation he is in and curses that scoundrel. Our hero tries to use his mana but notices that it is sealed and does not work. Without his mana, he wonders what kind of chance this is that the entity gave him. The mysterious entity remains silent, giving him no answer at all. Suddenly, 2 soldiers appear, and one of them points to the boy on the ground. The soldiers see him as a survivor and call him a brat with disgust. The soldier says he does not care and that the order is to eliminate all the survivors. He then reveals that this cruel order came directly from Lord Gilgren. Hearing his enemy's name awakens Chrono's anger all over again. The soldier moves in to attack the boy, saying a very arrogant goodbye. With a quick movement, the man tries to hit our hero with his sword, but using his battle experience, Chrono manages to dodge the attack easily. The boy curses the situation while managing to grab the enemy's sword. The henchman praises the boy's moves but says it is nothing. He adds that even with good reflexes, his strength is just not enough. Chrono notices that mana is not the only problem because this body lacks physical strength. The soldier says he is lacking and that with that power level, he will not accomplish anything. He repeats Gilgren's phrase saying that weakness is a sin for a boy. Even at a disadvantage, our protagonist does not give up and gets ready to fight. Memories of his defeat and his wife flash through his mind at that moment. He remembers that those who do not have enough mana end up losing everything in the end. But Chrono thinks that does not matter and that he will not give up on his payback. No matter what happens, he will get what he desires so much and get his revenge. Clenching his fist, a purple energy starts flowing from his body, surprising everyone. The soldiers are left confused, not understanding what is happening with that boy. Suddenly, a massive explosion of golden energy happens right in the middle of the field. Our hero shouts as the energy intensely manifests around his sword. The energy turns into chains of light that wrap around his weapon. The soldier who attacked him is in shock, unable to believe what he is seeing. The light chains continue to form and shine brighter and brighter. The henchmen wonder what just happened as smoke rises. Our hero is surprised to realize he can use mana and that the power he feels is insane. The soldiers are shocked by the mana level the boy is putting out and wonder how it is possible. But one of them does not care, saying a brat is still a brat and that he will crush him to pieces. Then one of the henchmen charges at our protagonist with everything he has, showing no fear. With a determined look, Chrono accepts the challenge and tells the enemy to come at him with all his might. In the blink of an eye, the boy dodges and counters with amazing speed for his size. With a single sword strike, he manages to defeat several soldiers all at once, showing off his skill. After the attack, a large trench forms on the ground, showing the devastating power of his strike. Our hero's face shows a mix of surprise and determination with the power he just used. He still seems a bit confused by everything happening around him at that moment. Chrono admits he does not understand it from start to finish, but that he does not care about the details. For him, the important thing is that he now has enough power to achieve his much-desired payback. With this new power, he has only one goal in mind, which is to take down that scoundrel Gilgren. He remembers he should be gone, but the entity offered him a unique chance for revenge. The creature promised him a borrowed life and power to drive his blade into Gilgren's heart. Back to reality, a soldier yells for him to fall and charges with his sword drawn. But with his new strength, Chrono easily defends himself and finishes the enemy without any trouble. The henchman is shocked to be defeated so easily by a simple boy on the ground. The other soldiers watch the scene in shock and curse the boy for his unexpected strength. One of the men yells at his companion, asking why he is struggling with a brat, and orders him to finish him. Seeing the situation, several enemies decide to attack our hero all at once without thinking twice. But with his swordmanship mastery, he perfectly defends against the multiple attacks. He then jumps into the air, getting ready to use one of his most powerful techniques against them. Surrounded on all sides, he focuses on unleashing an area attack to hit all of them. Our protagonist then announces the name of his technique, the third form of Kilchia swordsmanship. The attack is called Rhino Horn and releases a massive wave of energy in all directions. The entity's words echo in his mind, reminding him of his goal to take down the Necromancer. The image of his former self appears behind him, showing a warrior's soul inside a child's body. After the attack, all the soldiers are defeated, and he says the cleanup was done successfully. Even with the victory, he is still impressed and says that power was truly insane. He says Kiltia's swordsmanship is his, but he never had enough mana to use so much power before. With that, in the reflection of his sword, he briefly sees the image of his past self. The entity then explains that it will open a gap in his mana seal for a short period of time. And in this new body, he will only be able to use his power for 3 minutes a day, which is the restriction. A painful memory of Gilgren attacking his wife pops into his mind at that moment. But to Chrono, that does not matter, because his only target is Gilgren, and that time is more than enough. Looking at the destroyed city, he believes his enemy must not have gone very far yet. With a look full of anger, he swears he will find that scoundrel no matter what happens. Suddenly, the boy feels something strange, and his eyes widen with a bad feeling. A purple energy completely surrounds him, and he feels a terrible pain all over his body. Because of this, he can no longer hold his sword, and the weapon slowly falls from his hand to the ground. The kid wonders what on earth this pain is as he grabs his chest, unable to move properly. He continues agonizing on the ground, not understanding the reason for so much sudden suffering. Then he realizes the problem and screams in despair that his mana has completely disappeared. Looking at his hand, he wonders why this happened now and curses his bad luck. The pain is so much that the boy starts losing consciousness, and his vision slowly darkens. With his final strength, he tries to stay awake and fight off the approaching faint. But he cannot resist, and his vision blurs as he completely passes out on the ground. In the darkness, unknown voices complain that he is still breathing and talk about getting rid of him. Confused, our hero wonders who these people are and what they want with him. The voices then decide the best thing to do is throw him into the forest of demonic beasts. Sometime later, the boy wakes up and realizes he is being carried deep into a forest. Then he is thrown hard onto the ground and notices he is all tied up with ropes. Two guys appear, and one of them calls him a disgrace because he cannot even use mana. The other guy then says that this time he will definitely perish, calling him by the name Zeke. Our hero then realizes that Zeke is the name of the body he ended up reincarnating into. The guys say that a failure like him does not belong in their house, and tell him to meet his end there. Very angry, Chrono understands that Zeke was the outcast of the family and that is why he was abandoned. To make matters worse, one of the guys throws a strange substance on him to attract the forest beasts. The same guy mocks him, saying the beasts will find him soon, but the other brother tells him to drop the ropes. With a mocking smile, one of the guys asks if he is begging for his life. But Zeke lifts his head and, with a serious look, says he will only say it one more time. With a dangerous aura, the boy repeats the order for them to untie the rope right now. The brothers are shocked by his change in attitude, and one of them screams in fear. The scared boy tells his brother, named Grakara, that it is better if they just leave. But Grakara scolds him and asks why he is afraid of a nobody with no mana. The younger brother tries to argue, but Grakara cuts him off and asks what he means. He then says his brother carries the Gilgren name and cannot act like that. Hearing his greatest enemy's name again makes Chrono's anger grow even more. The cowardly brother cannot handle the pressure and runs away desperately, calling for his brother. Angry, Grakara stays behind and complains about his scaredy cat companion's attitude. Our hero watches everything with a cold, calculating look, waiting for the right moment. The other brother then says goodbye, telling Zeke to get eaten by a beast, and runs away too. Alone in the forest, the boy watches the two cowards running away and leaving him behind. He then memorizes their names, Grika and Grio, so he will not forget their cowardice. Chrono thinks about the nickname Mana less chic, and gets more and more confused by everything. But he decides he needs to find those two, because he has a lot of questions for them. Suddenly, a giant shadow appears, and he realizes he needs to get out of the ropes first. The ground starts shaking, and the sound of heavy footsteps gets closer and closer to him. Then, a giant creature resembling a rhino appears in front of him with a threatening look. Tied on the ground, the kid recognizes the creature as a giant rhino demon. He realizes that this is the forest boss and that he is in a very complicated situation. Without a second thought, the monster charges full speed at our defenseless hero. With a determined look, Chrono braces for impact, knowing he cannot take that hit. Using his strength, he manages to snap the ropes and jump away from the beast's attack. He knows that in that child's body, a direct hit from that monster would be fatal. After getting free of the ropes, he sits on the ground and takes a relieved breath for a second. But the rhino attacks again, and he has to dodge a bite with a kick. After dodging, he confirms that he really cannot use his mana at that moment. Chrono then wonders how he managed to use that insane amount of power earlier. The beast attacks with everything, and our hero is thrown far, but manages to dodge the deadly blow. Even though he dodged, he gets a little hurt and becomes furious at his current weakness in combat. Without thinking twice, the boy jumps onto the monster's back, trying a new strategy. He realizes it will not work because in this weak body, he cannot even defeat a monster. Even sweating cold and at a disadvantage, the warrior does not think about giving up at all. At that moment, the memory of his companions and his beloved wife haunts him again. Then the image of that scoundrel Gilgren appears in his mind with a cruel smile. With that, an uncontrollable fury takes over Zeke, who grinds his teeth with so much anger. He shouts that no matter what happens, his determination is greater than any obstacle. The young warrior swears he will take down the one who took everything from him, whatever the cost in life. Changing the scene, we see a large mansion that is likely Zeke's family home. Inside, the two brothers who abandoned the boy are walking calmly down a hallway. Grika then finds the delay strange and asks why their father has not returned home yet. Right after, they run into other family members and realize something is wrong. One of the men asks Grika where he was, and if he heard about what happened at the location. He then reveals that the squad sent to the Gangsable region was totally wiped out. The two brothers are completely shocked by the terrible news they just received. Grika asks who would have the power to do something like that, but the man says he has no idea. He adds that the culprit has not been found yet, and that everyone is investigating. The pair of brothers look worried, exchanging tense glances with each other in the hall. Griot then reminds his brother that the Gangsable region is exactly where they dropped Zeke off. The younger one wonders if the boy they abandoned could know something, but Grika scolds him, telling him not to care about what that failure knew. Suddenly, a noise catches their attention, and a large door opens in the hallway. Thinking it is their father, Grika tells his brother to get ready to welcome him home. Grika then thinks that if Zeke knew something, maybe they should not have left him to his fate. The older brother calls him annoying and tells him to stop thinking about it because it does not matter. He then opens the door and starts saying that this guy is, but is interrupted. Out of nowhere, a blast of energy hits him directly and throws him far away. Grika is paralyzed with shock seeing his brother thrown against the wall. With that, Griot cries out in pain as he is tossed away by the surprise attack that hit him directly. His brother Grika calls for him in panic and soon sees a silhouette at the destroyed door. The other family members are confused by the noise and wonder what is happening. The figure then reveals itself to be Zeke, who walks in carrying the Rhino Demon's head. Everyone in the hall is completely paralyzed by the scene and the boy's unexpected return. Wrapped in an aura of power, our protagonist walks with a very threatening expression. With a wicked smile, he says he has a few questions, but first, he is going to thank them. At this moment, the warrior throws the monster's head on the floor right in front of all of them. For an instant, the reflection of his old self appears, showing his true warrior identity. Chrono reflects on this absurd power and that he still does not know what triggers it to activate. He remembers that the first time he used this mana, he felt unbearable pain all over his body. The hero wonders if the pain is related to the 3-minute limit or if there is another reason. Back to the present, the youth faces his brothers, who remain paralyzed with fear in front of him. One of them recognizes him as Zeke and questions how he, who has no mana, is doing that. Our protagonist just ignores the comment, not caring about those useless details. He then decides it is not worth thinking about that now, because he has a single goal in mind. With a furious look, he demands to know the whereabouts of that scoundrel Gilgren immediately. The brothers panic and ask what he is talking about, not understanding the situation. Suddenly, an unknown voice echoes in the hall and asks him to stop all of that. Then, a little girl appears and calls him young Master Sheik, interrupting the commotion. The reincarnated warrior is left speechless and wonders who that strange girl could be. The girl tries to say something but stutters and cannot form her words properly. She runs toward him and scolds him, saying he needs to get along with his brothers. Chrono gets even more confused by the situation and understands nothing of what is happening. Next, the girl forces him to bow and apologize for the uproar he caused there. After that, she simply drags the protagonist away from there in quite a hurry. The other guys are left behind, watching everything without having the slightest idea of what just occurred. With Griot still passed out on the floor, one of them wonders what on earth all of that was. The scene then shifts outside the mansion, showing a tower under the night sky. Inside a dark room, a hand holds a golden ring close to the flame of a candle. Already in the room, the little girl sighs tiredly while our hero just watches her sitting on the bed. She then starts giving him a lecture and asks what he was thinking doing that in front of everyone. The girl questions if he has any idea what kind of payback his brothers might plan against him. With an unfriendly look, the boy gets annoyed and grinds his teeth with anger at the scolding. He then calls her noisy and asks who she is, but the girl says he has a sharp tongue. The young lady warns him to listen carefully because, in that house, power is everything and he has no mana. She introduces herself as Belle and seems very worried, just thinking about the consequences of his actions. Our hero remains silent while the girl worries about what might happen. He then thinks about the nickname, Manaless Sheik, and realizes the body's previous owner really was a weakling. Belle gets all shy and emotional about the situation and clenches her fist tightly. With a determined step, she approaches the boy to continue the conversation with him. She reveals that she has been watching him all this time as his personal maid. The girl says she saw him work himself to the bone, giving his all, while she prepares tea for him. And even with all the effort, she saw his suffering from not being able to turn his mana into magic. The young lady explains that everyone is born with a life force inside them called mana, but that few manage to refine it into magic to use in spells and that there are 7 levels. Belle adds that his brothers have already reached level 4, while he has not manifested anything. With that, she hands a cup of tea to the boy, who watches her in silence. Our hero's eye reflects the steam from the tea as he thinks about everything he heard. The young woman says she feels for him because everyone in the house treats him like a burden and despises him. The protagonist is surprised by the girl's attitude and what she is saying to him. Looking at his hand, he seems to remember something important from his forgotten past. Belle then touches his scars, reminding him that one was made at age 5 and another at 6. With a sad look, she holds his hand and says she remembers every wound on his body and heart. With tears in her eyes, the girl says that all she wants most is for him to be safe and well. Our protagonist is left speechless and looks away, thoughtful about what he just heard. He then breaks the silence and says he just lost his temper, that he will be more careful. Next, the boy takes a sip of the tea the maid prepared for him right then. He hands the cup back to the young woman, who looks at him with eyes full of emotional tears. With a calmer look, the hero apologizes for making her worried about him. The lady nods, still emotional, and watches him in silence for a moment. Suddenly, she seems to remember something and gets confused, with a doubtful expression on her face. Then the maid calls him young master and asks how he won the fight without using mana. The protagonist realizes she did not see him using power and is at a loss for words. He thinks he cannot explain that he fell and used the sword's same abilities in Zeke's body. At this, the young woman asks if by any chance he resorted to some dirty trick in the fight. The boy agrees and says it was something like that and that honestly it was almost cheating. The lady says she wants him to walk with pride, but she cannot blame him after so much suffering. With a serious look, he answers that no one in that house would blame him for a surprise attack. At that moment, he decides to ask about Gilgren, but the bedroom door opens suddenly. A guard informs him that his father has returned and requests his immediate presence in the West Hall. Our hero is surprised by the news and repeats the word father to himself in confusion. Right after, he is escorted by armed guards to a large, imposing door. Inside, a white-haired man calls him a disappointing son with a look of disgust. The protagonist is in shock as he recognizes that man's face and his eye widens. With his body trembling with anger and fear, the boy can only stutter Gilgren's name. The white-haired man then calls him to approach with a cold, authoritative voice. The young warrior is paralyzed and wonders why on earth his greatest enemy is there. Then it clicks, and he realizes that the head of that house and Zeke's father was Gilgren himself. Sweat runs down his face as he stares at the scoundrel who ruined his entire life. He thinks that the villain must have had some tricks up his sleeve to achieve all that. A memory of the mysterious entity offering him the chance for revenge pops into his mind. With immense hatred, he thinks his enemies saved him the trouble of hunting him down and is going to finish him there. The boy faces his target with determination, ready to attack at any moment without hesitation. But something goes wrong, and in anger, the protagonist curses his terrible bad luck. He tries to use his power, but the mana will not come, and he wonders why this is happening right now. At that moment, the villain breaks the silence and says there is only one reason for calling him there. The man reveals he heard he defeated Grika and asks if the rumor is true. Belle stands by his side with a fearful expression as the atmosphere gets increasingly tense. Desperate, the maid throws herself to the floor and begs for mercy for the young master. With a cold and commanding voice, the white-haired man orders the girl to stay quiet. The young woman is completely terrified on the floor, unable to say a single word. Gilgren then says he will not punish him, but that he is curious about the tricks he used. Hearing this, our protagonist goes on high alert because he knows something very bad is going to happen. At that moment, a gigantic red creature is summoned behind his enemy's throne. The multi-headed monster looks like a serpent and roars in a very threatening way at them. The maid screams in fear while Zeke recognizes the creature as an undead hydra. The villain says that in that house, power is everything, and tells the boy to show what he has got. The giant beast stays perfectly still behind the man, watching our hero with its glowing eyes. While the young lady trembles with fear on the floor, the reincarnated warrior faces the challenge head-on. Belle then realizes the monster's mana is level 5 or 6, making it a calamitous beast. Desperate, the girl screams for her young master to run away while the hydra readies an attack. The creature then fires a massive blast of purple energy toward the two in the hall. The powerful attack rushes forward with the intent to destroy everything in its path. With a quick move, our hero manages to grab the maid and save her from the deadly strike. He then thinks that a hydra's mana level is 4, and that his father must have strengthened it a lot. Gilgren mocks him, saying he has 0 chance of beating that beast without using mana. The boy thinks about his mysterious power and that he does not know the consequences of using it now. For a moment, he hesitates, not knowing what to do, and places his hand near his sword. But with a determined look, he decides that none of that matters anymore at that moment. With his body practically on fire, he says he will destroy that scoundrel whatever it takes. Our hero then gets ready for battle, facing the hydra with all his courage. Belle screams the young master's name, completely terrified by the scene in front of her. Without thinking twice, the boy charges with his glowing sword against the giant monster. The protagonist's attack collides with the beast's, creating a massive explosion of energy. With a glowing eye, our hero shows all his determination to win the fight. Gilgren is a bit surprised by his son's attitude and unexpected power. After the smoke clears, the boy appears wrapped in dark red energy. The maid is shocked to see his hand glowing with an intense aura of power. She cannot believe it and wonders how his mana level shot up to 7 so fast. Our hero stares down his enemy with a serious look full of determination for the fight. The villain just gives a slight smirk, completely unfazed by the boy's display of power. Gilgren thinks that even seeing his mana, he did not back down and that he is hiding something. But the kid does not care and says that whatever he is hiding does not change what needs to be done. With his sword drawn, the protagonist points at the villain and says it is his turn now. Wrapped in his dark aura, he fearlessly challenges the scoundrel who ruined his life. The white-haired man finds the boy's attitude interesting and gives a little laugh. The maid panics seeing the scene and starts sweating cold from so much nervousness. With tears in her eyes, she desperately tries to get her young master's attention. The girl begs him not to continue with this because she knows something bad is going to happen. But the protagonist ignores her and tells Belle to stay back because the fight is starting now. He then threatens her, saying that if she gets in his way, he will take her down right there. The young lady is completely shocked and speechless upon hearing the boy's cold words. Her legs start shaking uncontrollably from the pressure and fear of the moment. Because of this, she cannot handle the pressure and faints on the floor, unable to move anymore. Our hero watches everything with a cold look and absolutely no emotion on his face. He stays focused on his main goal, which is to defeat his enemy right there in the hall. Jogren then praises the boy's eyes, saying he has the good look of a warrior. The villain says he has changed and that a simple maid could not handle his presence. With a smirk, the man seems impressed and asks what he will do next. With the image of his past self, the warrior shouts that he is going to finish him right there. Wasting no time, the protagonist charges at full speed toward the scoundrel on the throne. He prepares a powerful slash with his sword wrapped in dark red energy. With a battle cry, the boy unleashes the attack with all his built-up strength. But Gilgren blocks the strike easily with his own sword without even standing up. The impact of the two attacks creates a huge explosion of energy in the middle of the hall. With a single movement, the villain throws our hero far away with absurd force. The boy cries out in pain, feeling the impact of his enemy's powerful counterattack. He is shocked and wonders what kind of monster this is with such massive power. Suddenly, Gilgren appears in the air and warns him not to get distracted during the battle. With that, Gilgren lands a powerful kick on our hero, who gets hurt as he falls to the ground. The villain continues the assault with impressive speed, giving him no chance to defend himself. But the kid recovers and launches a powerful counterattack, creating a huge shockwave. With his dark aura, he leaps into the air to land a deadly blow on his greatest enemy. However, Gilgren easily blocks the attack, showing his superiority in the battle. Then he throws the boy to the ground and steps on him hard to pin him down right there. The white-haired man gives an evil chuckle, really enjoying the whole situation. He says that is not enough, but that he is far from the weakling he was before. Our protagonist grinds his teeth in anger and frustration for being much weaker than him. The villain gets curious and asks how he got this strength and if it is his awakened lineage. The young warrior remains silent while the dark energy swirls around him on the floor. He then remembers his past defeat, thinking this is just like that terrible time. A memory from his past life pops up, and he wonders what kind of power the enemy has. The kid realizes the villain's power is not just strong, but something beyond his understanding. Jogren thinks there is something wrong with his mana, and that he does not know what he is hiding. The hero realizes that if he keeps attacking like this, he will be finished, and his instincts are screaming. He curses his luck and wonders if he's going to lose again without achieving anything in return. With a mocking look, his enemy asks what is wrong and if the cat got his tongue. Our protagonist stays quiet on the floor, not responding to the villain's taunts. The white-haired man says silence is a good answer and gives a little smile. Then he talks about the family creed that the victor is justice and the weak is a sin. He says he will ignore the fact that he raised his sword because he took down his powerful Hydra. With that, Gilgren offers the boy a reward and tells him to say what he desires right now. The kid thinks the man shouldn't mock him, wondering what he should do at that moment. Memories of his companions and his wife, both in her normal and undead form, haunt him. Fallen on the floor, he remembers he has already been taken down once and cannot ruin everything for them. He then decides he needs to drag every single one of his enemy's secrets into the light. His enemy keeps watching him silently, waiting for an answer from the youth there. With a new plan, the boy asks to see the mindless ones that his father commands. Jogren is surprised by the request and repeats the word undead curiously. With a determined look, our hero confirms his request and answers yes. His enemy stares at him with a serious expression, a bit surprised by the answer. Then Gilgren tells the boy to follow him, and the scene shifts to the mansion at night. They walk down a dark hallway lit only by the flame of a torch. The villain opens a secret door, and the protagonist follows him into the mysterious place. Walking down the stairs, the man asks why he is interested in the mindless ones right now. The young warrior stays quiet for a moment, thinking of a good excuse to give. He says he felt his father's strength in the Hydra and wants to learn from it to get stronger. Jogren says he understands while our hero feels a pain and leans against the stone wall. His enemy notices the discomfort and asks what is wrong with him all of a sudden. But the kid says it is nothing and that he is just a little tired from the fight earlier. He curses his bad luck because the pain he feels is the same as before, like his body is tearing apart. With a lot of anger, the warrior tells himself he cannot pass out there for the sake of his men. And he finishes his thought, saying he cannot fall, especially because of Hannah. At that moment, a memory of his beloved wife appears in his mind under the night sky. Back in the past, a man with a long ponytail hears someone call him darling. He turns around and sees his wife Hannah, who asks what he thinks of her appearance. The lady shows off her new dress and asks if the outfit suits her right then. Our hero is left completely speechless at her beauty and just says her name. He answers dryly that he does not know and that clothes do not matter much to him anyway. But the woman grabs him by the collar and says things do not work like that anymore. She explains that as the Sword Saint, he is the pride of the Empire, and she needs to measure up. With a smile, she fixes his collar and says that at least at the party, he has to look handsome. The lady steps back and says that now he looks wonderful, and that everything is ready. The warrior gets a bit flushed and embarrassed by his beloved wife's compliment. With her eyes closed, Hannah gives her beloved a sweet and gentle smile at that moment. Back to the present, the boy clenches his fist tightly, trying to endure the pain he feels. With a tear in his eye, he apologizes to Hannah for not being able to protect her. He then swears to himself that he will watch and that he will destroy that scoundrel. Then the villain stops walking and announces they have finally reached their destination. The white-haired man stops in front of a large door and says that this is the place. With a heavy sound, the massive doors open, revealing the darkness inside. Our hero is completely shocked by what he sees and can barely finish his sentence. The place is revealed to be a gigantic pit full of mindless ones with a sinister blue energy. From a balcony, the boy and the villain watch the horde of creatures moving around below. Shocked and sweating cold, the protagonist wonders what on earth all of that is. He stands in silence, completely paralyzed as he tries to process the scary scene. His enemy then coldly explains that the fallen have no emotions or free will. But he adds that sometimes something interesting shows up, and that is one of them. Hearing this, our protagonist's eyes widen with a very bad feeling. A female undead appears, and the villain says she is a creature that cries non-stop. With a smirk, he asks if it doesn't look like she is waiting for someone there. The reincarnated warrior is shocked to recognize the face and shouts Hannah's name. The white-haired man wonders if she is still looking for something even after everything. With an evil smile, he holds the zombie's head and asks what is wrong. He then calls him over to look closely because that was what he wanted, and the creature reaches out. The villain grabs the undead woman's arm and places it right in front of our hero in the room. With his fist hurting from squeezing so hard, the boy curses that scoundrel with all his hate. Grinding his teeth, he repeats several times that he will destroy the one who took everything from him. The kid then thinks he cannot do anything now, but that his revenge will come. In his mind, he asks Hannah to wait a little longer because he is going to take down Gilgren. To do that, he needs the enemy's power to uncover his secrets, whatever it takes. The scene then changes, and we see our hero lying in bed with his eyes wide open. He sits up in bed as the rain falls outside his bedroom window. In the darkness, the boy stares at the flame of an oil lamp with a determined look. With his beloved's name in mind, he reinforces his promise of revenge once again. With glowing eyes, he swears he will take down Gilgren with his own hands, no matter what. And so the chapter ends with the title image amidst the flames of the oil lamp. The next day, a scene of a beautiful sunny day at the mansion is shown to all of us. The sound of knocking on the door echoes through our protagonist's room, who was already awake. The maid Belle comes in and greets him with a polite, "Good morning." But she is surprised to see that the young master was already awake and sitting on the bed. The girl stutters in surprise, and he just confirms that yes, he had been awake for a while. Belle apologizes for the delay and says she will bring him some hot tea immediately. Next, she is shown serving a cup of tea to the boy, who watches her in silence. The young woman seems a bit nervous and worried while serving the drink to the lad there. Our hero keeps looking out the window without saying anything, lost in his thoughts. The maid then remembers the threat he made the day before and gets scared. She apologizes for intruding and says he lost his head for a moment. The girl says he finally awakened his mana and that she is very happy about it. But the protagonist is only thinking about Gilgren and how he needs to unravel the mystery of his power. He reflects that surprise attacks do not work against the villain's absurd power. The lad wonders what that sinister mana is and knows there is a lot he does not understand. Without enough information, he stays deep in thought while the maid calls him. With tears in her eyes, Belle asks if it isn't cruel to ignore her like that. She says she just did her best for him, for Lord Gilgren, and for herself in the end. The boy then says he wasn't ignoring her and was just thinking a bit. The maid asks if he hates her but says she will continue to serve him anyway. He then interrupts her and asks her to talk about Gilgren's mana. Anything will do. The young woman is completely confused by the question and does not know what to tell him. Belle says she is just a maid and knows nothing, but his mana felt like it drained her life just by being near. The lad confirms that she also felt that strangeness, and Belle scolds him, telling him to call him Lord Gilgren. He then reflects that mana is life itself, a pure and essential force for all living beings. But his enemy's mana contradicts that, and this could be the key to uncovering his big secret. The maid then changes the subject and says she is worried about the exam the next day and wished they would delay it. The reincarnated warrior gets a confused expression, not understanding what the girl is talking about. So, he asks what this exam is because he did not remember anything about it. The lady explains that it is the family training exam that everyone takes when they turn 10 years old. Our protagonist then repeats with disdain that it is the Gilgren family training and seems to think. He says he is not interested and has no time to waste on that, leaving the maid shocked. The young woman insists it cannot be like that because everyone in the house takes this exam, and he needs to take it seriously. She explains that if he does not show up or fails the exam, he will be exiled from the family forever, The kid stays silent, processing the information and the harsh rules of that house. He then wonders why Gilgren is so obsessed with proving the strength of everyone in the family. Then, the boy wonders if the exam has any connection to the secret of his enemy's power. Zeke asks if passing the exam will get him closer to Gilgren, and Belle corrects him on the name. He ignores it and asks again, and she answers that if he passes, he might be assigned to the guard unit. The maid adds that even the lowest soldier receives direct orders from Lord Gilgren. With a determined look, our hero understands what he needs to do and says he got it all. The scene shifts to a large castle that looks to be the place where the exam will happen. We see a huge courtyard with several people gathered for the start of the family training. The two brothers who abandoned Zeke in the forest are there looking unhappy. Our protagonist then arrives at the location, accompanied by his loyal maid Belle at his side. With a serious and determined look, he walks through the courtyard ready for whatever comes. One of the brothers spots him from afar and wonders what on earth Zeke is doing there. The other questions if the manaless sheik really plans to take the exam and is shocked. He adds that he thought the boy would just give up and get kicked out of the house. A memory of Zeke's power flashes, and he thinks the boy got cocky because of luck. Belle approaches and asks her young master not to push himself too hard so he won't get hurt. The lad calls her persistent and says, with an annoyed look, that he already told her everything will be fine. He then thinks that the truth is he does not know how far he can go in Sheik's body. But he knows he cannot be kicked out because he needs to uncover his enemy's secret. For that, he needs to stay close, and this exam is actually a great opportunity for him. With a determined look, he swears he will pass the exam as Sheik, no matter what it takes. To then expose Gilgren's secret and next time, take him down and save his beloved Hannah. Suddenly, a mysterious hooded figure approaches him and asks for a chat. A group of mean-looking guys surrounds him, and one of them asks what he is doing there. Our hero and his maid are surprised by the sudden arrival of the group of bullies. The guy mocks him for returning from Gangstable in one piece and says he must have cried all the way. The guy named Zach steps up and asks if he really plans to take the house exam. He says the test is not a playground and tells the boy to go back to his room and play with Belle. With a smirk, the bully then raises his fist, getting ready to throw a punch. But our hero catches the punch easily, and the guy asks what he thinks he is doing. Holding the fist tightly, the protagonist says with a cold look that he is very annoying. Without thinking twice, the lad lands a powerful punch right in the middle of the bully's face. The other guys are left speechless, seeing the scene and wonder what that noise was. The bully is completely stunned by the blow and can barely stay on his feet. From the impact of the punch, the jerk falls hard to the ground, completely knocked out. Everyone in the courtyard is shocked and wonders what on earth just happened there. Our hero stands still in front of the fallen body while Belle watches him, scared. The guy watching from afar says Zach dropped like a rock and wonders what Zeke did. With a cold look, our hero says he won't wake up for at least half a day and calls him trash. Grika's brother wonders who that guy is and since when he knows how to fight like that. With a lot of anger, the lad grinds his teeth in frustration for having been humiliated in the forest. Suddenly, a man with glasses appears and says that is enough and that it is time to end the show. He then announces that the promised hour has arrived and asks everyone to gather in the courtyard. With a slight smirk, the protagonist seems very confident about what is to come. The scene then shows the mansion courtyard with all the candidates gathered for the exam. The instructor explains that the 23 gathered there are all heirs to Gilgren's blood. He then asks if all candidates eligible for the exam are present, and they confirm. The man then says he understands and turns his back to the group of youths in the courtyard. Next, he grabs a piece of paper and warns that rules are rules, and he will read them to everyone. With that, the instructor begins explaining that the exam serves to test the strength of all of them, and that those who pass will be able to join Lord Gilgren's elite guard unit. This elite unit handles missions like bodyguard duty, taking out targets, and military operations. And only those who pass the exam will be qualified to join this unit. The test itself is a survival trial on a mountain full of bloodthirsty beasts. With a serious look, he warns that every year, some perish in the forest during the test. The candidates fall silent, wearing tense expressions upon hearing about the danger of the exam. Suddenly, a powerful voice echoes, saying that this year they are adding one more rule. All the young people are completely shocked and speechless hearing the Lord's voice. At that, Lord Gilgren himself appears, walking toward them with an imposing presence. Seeing him, all the candidates kneel as a sign of respect, except for our protagonist. Zeke remains standing, glaring at his greatest enemy with a look full of hate and defiance. Grinding his teeth, he controls himself not to attack the scoundrel right there in front of everyone. The image of Hannah in her undead form flashes in his mind, fueling his anger even more. With clenched fists, he swears to himself that he will pass that exam whatever it takes. With his hand hurting from squeezing so tight, he kneels down along with the other candidates. Our hero then stares down the villain with a determined look, ready for whatever happens. The white-haired man watches him with a cold and indifferent expression at that moment. He then announces the new rule, which is to protect an undead during the entire exam. Gilgren explains that each of them will receive a zombie and will have to risk their lives to protect it. With a smirk, he tells him to think of it as a rehearsal for protecting him. The reincarnated warrior faces the situation with a serious look, showing no emotion. Guards then appear and start putting shackles on the wrists of each candidate. One by one, they are chained to their new undead partners for the test. The villain then explains that the mana supply for the zombies has been cut off for the exam. Because of this, he says the bodies will not be revived again, making protecting them a challenge. Our protagonist is chained to a random zombie and glares at it with disgust in the courtyard. With a look of disgust, he curses the scoundrel for creating such a sick rule. He wonders what on earth this thing is as the zombie twitches on the ground beside him. Suddenly, one of the brothers yells that his zombie is crying and that it is really gross. Looking to the side, our hero is in shock to see that the zombie was his beloved Hannah. Jogren watches the scene from afar with a sadistic smile, enjoying the situation. With uncontrollable hate, the boy curses that scoundrel with all his soul and strength. The villain then tells his children to go and show their strength to him at that moment. Our hero accepts the challenge and swears he will pass the exam so he can then take down Gilgren. The man repeats that the first test is survival and protecting the assigned undead. With a final command, he tells his children to go and show their true strength to him. All the candidates then answer in unison that they will and prepare for the start of the exam. With a look of pure hate, he swears he will pass the test to uncover that man's secret. For him, this is the only path he can take, and he does not care what he has to do to win. With the image of his past self, he promises he will take down Gilgren and finally save his beloved Hannah. The scene then cuts back to the conversation with Belle, where she says training begins when a child is born. The girl explains that the training includes hunting animals, magical beasts, and even other humans. She says that siblings are thrown onto a deserted island and only the survivors are raised. The maid says that to her, all of this seems very cruel and asks if he remembers any of it. The kid nods but says he does not know any of it from personal experience after all. The lady then gets curious and asks if anything bothered him about that subject. With a cold look, the reincarnated boy replies no and that everything is completely fine. He complains that everyone only talks about strength and wonders if the family is really a big deal. Belle explains that the history of the house is recent, but the customs are ancient, and he disagrees. The young woman says they grew as a martial house and that neighboring nations recognize them. In his thoughts, the warrior notes that something is off since the family is quite new. He wonders why they are so obsessed with power if they do not have much honor to protect. Instead of answers, he realizes he is just piling up more and more questions about everything. The maid then warns that he also needs to follow these strange family customs. She adds that if the Lord does not acknowledge him, he will not be able to stay there anymore. But the lady says that if he manages to stay in the mansion, she would be very happy about it. The protagonist remains silent, just processing the words of his loyal maid. Back in the courtyard, Grika complains about being chained to that undead woman he finds disgusting. He then asks the instructor to swap his zombie because he cannot focus with that thing. The man explains that the decision is final and that the chains cannot be removed under any circumstances. Grika keeps complaining, saying that if he loses points because of it, it will be the worst for him. In the distance, his father tells him to do what he wants and stares at him with pure disdain. The villain says that with true strength, the type of zombie shouldn't matter to him at all. Terrified, the young man panics and starts apologizing desperately to his father. He then swears he will complete the test without failing, while our hero watches everything silently. The white-haired man just stares at him with a cold and totally indifferent expression. Jogren then tells him to do his best and says he expects good results at the end of the exam. The boy gets all happy and starts thanking his father with a silly smile on his face. Our protagonist observes the scene with a serious look, not understanding his brother's reaction. Grika then turns around and catches the attention of our hero, who remains completely quiet. Hearing the call, his father stops walking and asks what he wants with that lad. Zeke says he will pass the exam to earn the right to stand by his father's side in the future. With a determined look, he tells the scoundrel to just wait and see what will happen. The villain says everything depends on his strength and vanishes from the spot in a purple energy. Grika is shocked by the scene, realizing his father simply disappeared out of nowhere. He then yells at Zeke, calling him disrespectful for talking like that to their father. Our hero calls out to Grika, who is confused about what he wants from him now. He then warns the lad not to dare lay a finger on the undead woman accompanying him. With a dangerous look, the warrior says he will take him down if he touches his beloved wife. Grika is confused and says what he is talking about makes no sense. He then wonders if Zeke is declaring him a rival at that moment. With a smirk, he figures the boy is challenging him not to give up on the test. Grika shouts that he does not need pity and tells him to worry about himself, calling him brother. The instructor then turns around and asks everyone if they are ready to begin the exam. Holding an oil lamp, he announces that time is up and the first exam is starting now. He explains that the flame entrusted by Gilgren will give the signal for the start of the great test. With that, a purple flame erupts from the lamp and engulfs all the candidates in the mansion's courtyard. Our hero is surrounded by an intense purple energy as the teleportation magic activates. He then realizes it is a teleport spell as he is whisked far away. As a result, the mansion courtyard is left completely empty, leaving only the exam instructor. The man then wishes the candidates good luck while Belle watches everything with concern. With a fearful expression, the young maid can only whisper her master's name. Next, our protagonist and his zombie partner appear in the middle of a dense forest. The lad looks around as the purple teleportation energy slowly fades. He looks at his undead partner and says it seems they have finally reached their destination. With a serious look, the boy figures the others must have been sent to another place. The scene then shows the forest path with a giant skull and weird mushrooms. Our hero goes on high alert and surveys the surroundings with great care and attention. He senses a presence and wonders if it is another candidate or maybe one of the examiners. The reincarnated warrior quickly turns around, bracing for a possible surprise attack. Suddenly, a mysterious purple smoke appears behind him without him noticing right away. The smoke then turns into magic runes that reveal the rules of the first exam. He reads the rules and sarcastically thinks what a lovely family, making him fight his brothers. The young man believes the answer to Gilgrand's obsession with power lies beyond this exam. Suddenly, the boy hears a strange noise and looks up, startled by what it could be. A giant demonic bird appears in the sky and lets out a very loud and threatening screech. The creature then dives full speed toward another candidate who is in the forest. Our hero comments that a magical beast has already appeared and that saves him the trouble of hunting. He remembers he already fell once and cannot make mistakes in his second chance. The giant beast charges with its claws ready for a deadly strike against the young candidate. The protagonist then leaps into the battle, saying that is the fastest way. With a determined look, he swears to himself that he will pass that test as sheep. The creature opens its beak, preparing to attack the boy with all its strength there. Using the zombie as a support, the lad jumps into the air for an aerial attack against the monster. With a single strike, he manages to slice the demonic bird in half with his sword. Another candidate fights in the background while the two halves of the monster fall lifeless to the ground. After the attack, the creature crashes down amidst a cloud of smoke and dust in the area. He thinks his experience as a sword saint in escort missions was quite useful. The defeated bird's body lies on the forest floor as a trophy of his first victory. But suddenly, a giant gorilla crackling with lightning appears in the middle of the forest. The new beast attacks the bird's body with a powerful, devastating electric punch. Our hero gets annoyed and complains that monsters keep showing up one after another. With a confident smile, he says he has already lost twice and will use them for a warm-up. The two massive beasts glare at our protagonist with a look full of fury and hatred. In the blink of an eye, the two monsters appear defeated on the floor of that forest. He then wonders if the examiners are at least keeping track of his points in the test. Suddenly, the warrior senses an attack coming from behind and prepares to defend himself. With a quick movement, he manages to block the sword strike from a blue-haired guy. He turns around, confused, not knowing who his new opponent in that forest is. The lad praises him sarcastically and calls him a manhwa weakling with a smirk. Our hero then asks who he is and what he wants with him during this moment of the test. The blue-haired guy just gives a mocking chuckle without answering his question. He says the test is not for the weak and that he is going to finish Zeke, so he becomes beast food. The protagonist smiles and repeats that a manhwa weakling does not deserve to live then. He thinks this is exactly the attitude he expected from that family and that he hates it. With a defiant look, he quotes the family motto about the victor being justice. The blue-haired guy is surprised and left speechless by our hero's words. With a cold look, our protagonist warns that he threw the first punch and shouldn't expect any mercy. The blue-haired guy praises him and says he is not bad for someone without a drop of mana. A blue energy starts to glow from the enemy's sword as he prepares to attack with everything. With a serious look, the young man shouts Sheik's name and charges at our hero in the forest. But the reincarnated warrior repeats his words and warns him not to expect any mercy. With a determined expression, he says he is going to show his true strength to that guy. The enemy just gives a mocking chuckle, not caring about the lad's words. He calls him a manhwa freak and charges at full speed toward our protagonist. With a furious look, he shouts that Zeke will be the first one eliminated from that exam. The guy throws a bag of gunpowder on the ground and warns he is going to slice him in half without any pity. With a smirk, the protagonist spots the trick and calls it a cheap shot. The enemy then tosses a lit torch at the bag, and a huge explosion goes off in the forest. With a victorious smile, the young man shouts that it serves him right as smoke rises in the area. But our hero emerges unharmed from the explosion, and the enemy is confused by what just happened. With a swift movement, the kid lands a powerful kick right on the blue-haired guy's chin. The lad cries out in pain, feeling the impact of the blow, and his body is thrown backward. Next, he crashes hard onto the ground, completely defeated and unable to move. The protagonist says that was just an afterimage and that he has never seen one before. He adds that the humidity of the forest helped him create the image easily. The blue-haired guy is shocked and wonders what on earth he is talking about now. With a smirk, the warrior says he has run into guys like him several times before. He explains he noticed from his legs that he was not going to attack with his sword and was plotting something. Very angry, the guy gets up and tells him not to underestimate him, calling him a brat. He curses his situation while our hero just watches him silently in the forest. Fallen on the ground, the enemy cannot believe he lost to someone like the manhwa Sheik. The protagonist stands still in front of his defeated opponent with a very cold expression. But the guy does not give up and gets up with a dagger in hand, shouting that he won't lose. The warrior says his enemy's body and eyes give him away, telling him to learn from it. With a stomp, he stops the guy's attack and throws him to the ground with a precise strike. The lad curses his luck as he is defeated once again by our hero in the forest. He thinks a disadvantage can be used in his favor in an exam like that one. A memory of Hannah with Grika flashes in his mind as he reflects on the situation. With a focused look, he prepares to continue his journey through the dangerous forest. With a quick move, he cuts the chain binding his opponent to his zombie. The blue-haired guy is shocked to see the broken chain and doesn't understand anything. The protagonist then says is the end for him, and he can enjoy getting expelled or whatever comes next. Next, he turns around and starts walking away from the spot, leaving the lad behind. With a serious look, he warns the enemy not to make any mistakes and not to follow him. He thinks about his goal to take down Gilgren and save Hannah, and that he needs to stay focused. From afar, a hooded figure watches everything closely, hiding behind a tree. The man comments coldly that they already have their first dropout from this year's exam. He wonders if that was really young Master Sheikh and notes he fights like a veteran. Holding a notebook, he jots down his observations and questions the boy's strength. Elsewhere in the forest, Grika is resting against a rock with a zombie. With his arm hurt, he curses his luck for being attacked right at the start of the test. Suddenly, the ground begins to shake, and a strange noise catches the boy's attention. A giant demon pig appears in front of him with a very threatening and dangerous look. Grika complains that the first beast he runs into just had to be an A rank one. The giant monster charges full speed at the boy, who braces for the worst. The beast opens its mouth and lets out a powerful roar as Grika stares at it in fear. The monster attacks with a mighty punch, and Grika screams in despair as he is thrown far. With his body trembling, he curses his luck as the beast slowly approaches. The examiner watches from afar and thinks it is over for the lad in the dangerous forest. He adds that Grika does not stand a chance against that A-rank creature. The monster then runs full tilt toward the boy to deliver the final blow and finish him off. With a look of despair, Grika realizes he can no longer fight and is going to give up. He thinks he is already going to fail the exam and decides to use the undead as bait to escape. Hannah Zombie stares at him with her empty eyes as he gets ready to run. A memory of our hero's threat flashes in his mind, and he hesitates for a second. But the boy grinds his teeth in anger and gets ready to run and save his own skin. He curses the man a less chic and says he understands what he meant by his words. Grika convinces himself that the challenge is to pass the exam without a scratch on the undead. With sweat pouring down his face, he faces the challenge with a new determination. Our protagonist challenges the boy and says if he is his rival, this shouldn't be anything. Grika gets the message and, with a furious look, says he accepts the kid's challenge. Full of anger, he shouts that he is going to do it and won't show something pathetic. With a firm step, he prepares to face the beast head on with all his courage. Without a second thought, the lad charges with his sword drawn against the giant monster. The demon pig attacks with a powerful punch, but Grika manages to narrowly dodge. With a quick move, he counterattacks with a precise and accurate sword slash. With his nose hurting, he shows his determination to win the fight against the beast. The lad then uses one of his techniques and manages to cut off one of the monster's arms. The examiner watches the scene shocked and comments that this is simply incredible. He notes that the kid is really pushing forward against the beast with great courage and strength. But the difference in power is too vast, and Grika is thrown backward with a single strike. The hooded man laments that the skill gap is just too big for him to win. An aura of power surrounds the creature, and he says there are differences that cannot be overcome. Lying on the ground, Grika curses the situation and realizes he really has reached the end. The monster then moves in to deliver the final blow and finish the boy off once and for all. The creature attacks and rips off one of Grika's arms in a brutal and merciless strike. Grika is shocked and confused by what just happened right in front of him. Suddenly, our hero appears and saves him from the beast's deadly attack with a quick move. He complains about the boy's ugly face and tells him to stop looking so desperate. The protagonist then turns to Hannah's undead form and says he arrived just in time. With a look of disdain, he scolds Grika for not considering the level difference with the beast. Grika is surprised and asks what he is doing there saving his rival in the test. Our hero then tells him to listen very carefully because he will not repeat it. With a dark aura, he warns him that if he does not want to perish, he better risk his life. The monster roars in pain from its severed arm while our hero gets ready to fight. Grika stays on the ground, shocked by Zeke's attitude and the power he shows right now. Our protagonist complains about his rival's scared face and tells him to knock it off. The boy is left speechless, just watching the scene with a mix of fear and surprise. Zeke then warns that if he does not want to fall, he better get ready to fight with everything. Grika sits on the ground unresponsive while the demon pig gets ready to attack again. He yells at our hero and tells him not to act all high and mighty around there. Angry, he adds that he was about to defeat that thing all by himself. The protagonist just looks at him with a cold and indifferent stare, not caring at all. He then turns to Hannah and Grika asks what he is doing with her now. Our hero looks at his beloved zombie with an expression of sadness and determination. The undead stares back with her empty eyes filled with redness and pain. Our hero faces his rival with a serious look and an unfriendly expression on his face. With clenched fists, he shows all his determination to protect his beloved Hannah. In his thoughts, he swears to himself that he will get his wife out of that terrible situation. With a furious look, he asks Hannah to wait for him because his revenge is near. Grika wonders what got into Zeke and if he might be interested in his undead partner. He then starts having strange thoughts, wondering if the kid is into older women. With a disgusted face, Grika questions if the lad is actually just into bodies. Elsewhere, Gilgrim watches the exam through a crystal ball and comments on the participants. With a look of disdain, he just grumbles, not caring much about what he is seeing. The villain then says those without strength are unnecessary and that is all that matters. The instructor comments that B-rank beasts are already too much for them and few will survive. The man then spots something strange in the crystal ball and calls Lord Gilgrim's attention. With his eyes wide, the instructor is completely in shock at what he is witnessing. He yells that it is an A-rank beast and shouldn't even exist in the White Forest. With an evil smile, the villain just confirms that yes, it was an A-rank beast. The instructor is speechless and wonders if perhaps the Lord did that on purpose. Gilgrim says it is just a little bit of entertainment, a small dose of stimulation. The man with glasses comments that it will be a very harsh trial for all the young candidates. He explains that the difference between B and a rank is like heaven and earth and no one can win. With a worried expression, he thinks about the special abilities of that terrifying creature. The demon pig regenerates and a massive purple energy surrounds it completely in the forest. Grika panics and wonders what on earth Sheik is doing in that moment of danger. The beast's body fully regenerates and an aura of power wraps around it, leaving everyone shocked. Our protagonist recognizes the regeneration ability and its impressive speed. Grika panics and says there is no way they can defeat that creature at all. Without thinking twice, he starts running desperately, shouting that they will fall if they stay. With an angry look, the reincarnated warrior curses the boy and calls him a complete idiot. The monster watches the fleeing kid and gets ready to attack with all its strength and power. The beast charges full tilt toward Grika, who runs desperately for his life through the forest. But our hero jumps in front of him and manages to block the attack with his sword. Grika cries out in pain as he is thrown back by the impact of the creature's powerful strike. Shocked, he turns around and yells Sheik's name, not understanding how he got there so fast. The protagonist scolds him, asking what on earth he was thinking turning his back. He says that by turning his back on the enemy, he obviously became the target of the deadly attack. The demon pig snorts in anger while staring down our heroes with its red eyes. With its whole body electrified, the beast prepares to use one of its most powerful attacks. Our hero just stares back in silence, getting ready for the battle ahead. The creature then fires several electric spikes from its back toward the two of them. With a quick movement, the warrior manages to dodge the attacks and protect his companion. But even so, he gets grazed and feels the pain of the electric attack on his body. He then realizes the spikes on the beast's back swelled up and were shot at them. The purple energy continues to envelop the creature as it regenerates once again in the forest. With new spikes on its back, the monster is ready to attack with everything again. The protagonist is impressed by the regeneration and says that thing is a true monster. He gets annoyed and complains that no living creature should regenerate at that speed. With a hateful look, he thinks that scoundrel Gilgrim must have done something. Grinding his teeth, he braces for the fight and calls the creature super annoying. The beast's severed arm begins to move on its own on the dark forest floor. The monster then regenerates once more, and Grika yells that it just healed again. Our hero continues staring at the creature with a serious look full of determination. Our hero stares down the creature with a serious look and gets ready for the final battle in the forest. He thinks that if he doesn't attack with everything, the beast will keep regenerating forever without stopping. With his sword in hand, he considers using his old techniques, but knows he can't do that. After all, he remembers the examiners are watching his every move from afar. The image of the scoundrel Gilgrim flashes in his mind, and he knows he is being watched. The boy worries because if they see his techniques, they might start suspecting his identity. Even while dodging attacks, he keeps thinking about the consequences of all his actions. He wonders what would happen if they found out he is actually a reincarnated warrior, and what they would do if they knew his true goal of payback against the lord of the house. The image of his beloved Hannah appears in his mind, filling him with determination to fight. With that, he faces the giant monster with all his courage and prepares for the strike. He grips his sword tightly, ready to finish that creature once and for all. The kid decides he cannot let this happen and cannot get distracted by thoughts. The voice of his past self calms him down, saying he already knows exactly what he needs to do. Grika is shocked and wonders how Sheik got so strong all of a sudden without an explanation. But the protagonist tells him to shut up and says he is just too weak to understand. He then holds his sword with both hands, getting ready for a very powerful attack. With a gleam in his eyes, he focuses his energy in the blade for the final blow against the beast. A huge aura of colorful flames surrounds our hero as he unleashes all his power. The examiner watches from afar, shocked, and wonders what kind of fighting stance that is. The warrior thinks he cannot reveal who he is, but he also cannot afford to fall right there. So he decides to use an unknown swordsmanship style to completely cover his tracks. The beast opens its mouth and lets out a furious roar, getting ready to attack with everything it has. Wrapped in flames, the lad faces the monster with determination, ready for combat. In his room, the instructor watches everything through the crystal ball and calls for Lord Gilgrim. The villain just looks at him with a cold, indifferent stare, not surprised by the scene. The man with glasses says he never thought he would put an A-rank beast in the test. He adds that no 10-year-old child could possibly overcome that challenge. The creature charges with everything at our protagonist, who does not take a single step back. With a battle cry, the lad challenges it, saying he is going to blow it away without leaving a trace. The monster then opens its mouth and fires a massive energy beam toward the boy. Our hero shouts and unleashes a blast of power from his sword to counter the strike. The two attacks collide, creating an explosion of light and energy in the middle of the forest. The reincarnated warrior struggles to hold back the beast's attack with all his strength. A giant pillar of light shoots up to the sky from the impact of the two colliding powers. Krika screams in terror at the absurd display of power happening right in front of him. The energy beam pushes the beast back with the force of our protagonist's attack. The creature seems to be consumed by the light and the power of the warrior's strike. Wrapped in an aura of fire, the boy channels his mana for the final attack against the beast. He then jumps into the air with his sword in hand, ready to finish the monster right there. The beast looks up and sees the boy's silhouette descending for the mercy blow. He complains that he tried to alter the attack but went all out against the beast anyway. Grika is completely paralyzed with shock and terror at the scene he is witnessing. With the attack, a huge trench opens in the ground, showing the devastating power of the strike. But the creature begins to regenerate once more, showing off its incredible ability. Zeke curses the regeneration and Grika says at this rate, he will run out of stamina. Suddenly, Grika yells and tells Shake to look to the side to see something he noticed. They then spot a figure lying on the ground near where the battle was happening. Approaching it, they realize it is the examiner who had been watching them from afar. Grika asks who it is, and the protagonist explains it is one of the exam proctors who got caught. Grika is surprised and wonders if they really had proctors hiding during the exam. Getting closer, our hero notices the man's eye is fake and contains a blue flame. He then realizes that Gilgren had been watching everything through that magic eye. With a smirk, the warrior realizes he is now free to fight with everything he has. A dark aura of power surrounds him, and he decides to use his old swordsmanship skills. With a determined look, he swears he will end this before another proctor shows up. Grika is shocked by the change in attitude and the aura of power radiating from his rival. Our protagonist then unleashes all his power and prepares to use the Kiltia's swordsmanship. With its first form, Gale, he creates a whirlwind of energy that strikes the monster. The creature is caught off guard by the powerful attack, and its body is blown backward. With a single strike, the boy manages to slice off the monster's arm using his sword technique. Grika is completely paralyzed in shock at our hero's display of power. The protagonist explains that Kilchi's swordsmanship was created by the first Sword Emperor, and that nowadays the only one who can use all 7 forms is Chrono Gaius himself. He then uses the 4th form, Serpent's Claw, and an energy snake wraps around the beast. The technique holds the monster tightly, completely immobilizing it in the middle of the forest. With a powerful leap, our hero moves in for the next attack with his sword drawn. He gets ready to use another one of his techniques to finish the creature there. The boy thinks this weak body and the zombie are holding back his total firepower. But he decides he will press on with 2 more strikes to end the fight once and for all. With a gleam in his eyes, he prepares to use the 3rd form of his powerful swordsmanship. He then shouts the name of the technique, Rhino Horn, and charges at full speed toward the monster. A massive explosion of energy occurs, and the light from the strike illuminates the whole dark forest. In his room, Lord Gilgren senses something strange, and the crystal ball shatters in his hand. The instructor gets startled and asks if something is wrong with Lord Gilgren at that moment. The villain just looks at him with a serious and thoughtful expression without saying a single word. With a cold look, he replies that it is nothing, and the scene shifts back to the forest again. A huge cloud of smoke rises from the clearing where the battle with the creature took place. The demon pig appears completely defeated and melting onto the forest floor. Wrapped in his dark aura, our hero observes the monster's body with a victorious air. He complains about the clean hits and that the beast acts like nothing happened earlier. With a tired look, the boy says he has no choice and needs to end this right away. The beast prepares to attack once again with all its fury and accumulated power. A golden aura of power envelops the protagonist, who gets ready for his next move. Grika yells at him, asking what on earth he is doing and tells him to run away. The warrior explains that this technique consumes a lot of mana, but is less powerful than the others. He then focuses and uses the 2nd form of his swordsmanship, the Hound's Cage. A large cage of golden energy forms and traps the giant monster inside. The beast roars in anger as it is captured by our protagonist's powerful technique in the fight. With a confident smile, the lad says he finally caught it and prepares for the final strike. He then explains that inside the cage, he can locate the beast's core and attack it. With his sword ready, he prepares to slice the core and put an end to the regeneration. With a battle cry, the warrior commands the creature to be cut down once and for all. With a single precise strike, he manages to split the beast core in 2 with his sword. He then realizes the core had been tampered with, and that Gilgren was the one who did it all. Grika is shocked and cannot believe Shake actually managed to defeat the A-rank beast. He wonders what on earth that was, as he has never seen swordsmanship like that in his life. With sweat pouring down his face, he worries about his position if things continue like this. Our hero stands still in the middle of the trench with the smoke of battle rising around him. The creature regenerates once more, and Grika yells that its regeneration is not slowing down. With his hand on the dirt, the lad feels a terrible pain all over his body suddenly. He curses the situation and complains that his body cannot handle the strain of the fight. With a tired look, he thinks he burned too much mana for too long during the battle. Because of this, he can no longer stay on his feet and passes out on the dark forest floor. Grika runs toward him desperately and yells Sheik's name to try and wake him up. He gets closer and asks if the boy is still alive after that intense fight. In the background, the defeated beast's body starts disintegrating into black smoke. Black smoke surrounds the monster's body as it completely dissolves right there. Grika and the zombie Hannah watch the scene in silence, shocked by what just happened. A memory of his mother pops into Grika's mind, reminding him of his duty to the family. His mother warns him not to suffer the disgrace of exile and to fight with all his strength. She tells him to run over his brothers if necessary to achieve glory and win. With a determined look, Grika understands he needs to win at any cost to survive. He then stares at our protagonist with a look of envy and determination for the future. Back to the present, a scene of dandelions flying through a reddish sky appears. We see a man in armor with a long ponytail wondering where he is. Turning around, he encounters a group of people looking at him strangely. He then realizes he is in the middle of a battlefield surrounded by enemies. But to his surprise, they all turn into undead with glowing eyes. The zombies charge at him, and the man gets ready to fight against the horde. Back to reality, our hero is in a fountain and complains that he failed the exam. He is angry because he tried so hard to defeat an A-rank beast and still failed. Grika shows up and sarcastically says he claimed everything Zeke did in the forest as his own. With a look of hatred, he stares at our protagonist with a lot of anger and frustration. The reincarnated warrior ignores him and asks if he really claimed his feats. With a threatening look, he warns that depending on the answer, the fountain will be his tongue. Grika panics and denies everything, telling him not to put the blame on him. Angry, he asks if the boy has any proof and challenges him to show something. Our hero then lands a powerful punch on Grika, who falls hard into the fountain water. The lad is thrown backward by the impact of the strike and lands on his back in the fountain. Grika cries out in pain with his head submerged while our hero just watches him. With his body all bandaged up, the protagonist glares at his rival with a look of disdain. He says that if Grika showed remorse, he would settle for just hurting him a little. The boy falls into despair and starts begging for his life, terrified of what might happen. Suddenly, Belle appears and asks her young master to stop that immediately. She yells that he cannot finish him because it is forbidden to attack a family member there. Grika takes advantage of the situation and confirms that yes, fighting outside a duel is banned. He then brags about passing the exam and having a badge to prove his victory. With a mocking smile, he says the badge, less trash, cannot fight him there. Our hero then asks if in an official duel he can finally finish him off. Grika is completely terrified by the question and does not know what to say to the kid. The protagonist says that sounds good to him and is better than empty talk. He then challenges him to a duel with the badge he is so proud of on the line. Grika tries to refuse, saying he is tired from the test, but a new person shows up. A woman appears and tells him to accept the challenge and show the strength of her son. With a confident look, she says he will be fine because he defeated an A-rank beast. Desperate, Grika yells that it is not quite like that, and that the story wasn't really like that. Our hero then grabs him by the collar and lifts him up with surprising strength. He dunks the lad into the fountain and asks if he's going to duel him or not right now. With a serious look, he adds that it should be easy for someone who passed the exam. Even while being dunked, Grika keeps resisting and refuses the duel again. With an angry look, our protagonist gets ready to put an end to it once and for all. He pushes the lad's head deeper into the water, making his mother desperate. The kid's body thrashes in the fountain as he is held under without any mercy by the hero. The woman screams for her son to get up and fight, but he can no longer move. One of Grika's brothers complains about the situation and says Sheik is really going to do it. With a worried look, Belle calls for her young master, trying to stop him from continuing. But he ignores her and keeps holding the boy with an expression of pure fury. With a cold look, the reincarnated warrior says he knows what he is doing at that moment. The image of his past self haunts him, and he remembers he shouldn't act that way. But he convinces himself he cannot defeat Gilgren and needs to discover his secrets. And to do that, he cannot lose the chance to gain the favor of his scoundrel father. With a determined look, he asks if Grika will duel or if he prefers to be finished right there. Left with no choice, the lad accepts the duel, and our protagonist lets him go in the fountain. Suddenly, the reincarnated warrior senses something strange, and his eyes go wide in surprise. He then turns around and sees a new figure standing in the middle of the large mansion's courtyard. A green-haired boy glares at him and says that is enough of all that commotion around there. With a serious look, the protagonist faces the new opponent who appeared out of nowhere to him. He is surprised because he didn't sense the guy approaching at all while at the fountain. In his thoughts, the lad tries to remember who that strange new opponent might be. He then remembers the guy's name is Helios, one of Gilgren's other sons. The green-haired boy repeats his opponent's name with a challenging look in his eye. Helios asks what he is planning and if he is there to break up their fight. But the lad says he is not that soft and just has one question to ask him. With a serious look, he asks if Zeke was the one who defeated the A-rank beast in the exam. Our hero answers sarcastically, asking if he's going to get a pat on the head for it. Helios then says he figured, and that the truth doesn't matter since a useless person couldn't do it. He calls Grika useless and seems not to believe the story he told everyone. The green-haired lad then shows an exam badge just like Grika's to our protagonist. With a smirk, he says he also passed the exam and will fight in his place. A green energy aura surrounds him as he gets ready for the duel against our hero. Zeke is surprised by the lad's attitude and the aura of power radiating from him. Helios challenges him to a duel and says the gentle exam left his sword rusty. With a confident smile, our protagonist says now things are getting good. Grika yells at him and says Helios is on another level and that he cannot beat him. But the reincarnated warrior does not care and says he just wants the badge, no matter who from. He adds that he was getting bored fighting only the weaklings in that house. A blue energy aura wraps around him as he gets ready to battle his new opponent. With a smirk, he challenges him and tells him to entertain the man less chic. For a bit, the two stare each other down with their power auras ready for the start of the big duel. Helios accepts the challenge and tells the man less chic to duel him right there. With a serious look, he adds for the kid to entertain him a bit during the battle. Our protagonist finds it interesting and says he was getting bored of fighting weaklings. With a defiant smile, he tells his opponent to come at him with everything now. Suddenly, Belle appears and asks them to wait a bit before they start fighting. The protagonist turns around and stares at her with a serious look and an unfriendly expression. He tells her not to get in his way and to stay back until the fight starts. But the maid explains that a duel is only valid if held in an official location. Helios stays quiet, just watching their conversation with a look of disdain. Our hero complains about the red tape and says doing it right there would be fine. Helios agrees with the maid, saying that if they break the rules, both will be expelled. With a look of disdain, our hero grumbles that Gilgren's rules are stupid. Hearing this, the green-haired lad gets a look of pure hatred and irritation. He then gets furious with the boy for daring to call his father by his name with no respect. Angry, Helios says for that offense, he deserves to be punished 10,000 times over. Our protagonist just gives a smirk, completely unbothered by his threats. The scene then shifts to a dueling arena lit only by the light of several torches. A sign reveals that the place is known as the Bloodstained Courtyard. We then see the arena from above, showing how large and intimidating the duel area is. From another angle, we see that the two boys are tiny compared to the entire arena. Wrapped in his green aura, Helios gets ready for battle with a very serious expression. Our hero walks into the arena while Belle watches him worriedly from the entrance. With a calm look, he observes the dueling arena and braces for what is to come. The place is decorated with several giant skulls, making the atmosphere even more tense. Zeke then mocks the place, saying it is not an official spot but rather a filthy arena. Belle then calls him young master and begs him please not to push himself too hard. She explains that Lord Helios is one of the most capable brothers and is quite ruthless. His talent was recognized by Gilgren, and at age 8, he was already going on elite missions. Our hero just smirks and says the story sounds pretty fun. Worried, the maid warns that there is one more thing he needs to know about Helios. She reveals that in the mansion he is known as the White Rose Reaper because of his swordsmanship. With tears in her eyes, the young lady asks him once again to be very careful. Zeke mocks the nickname and says it doesn't matter if it is a white or black rose, he will crush it. Suddenly, the arena walls start to rise, revealing a deadly trap. Our protagonist looks up surprised and wonders what on earth is going on. The wall is revealed to be covered in sharp spikes, ready for the battle to begin. We then see that the entire arena is one big trap meant to make the duel more brutal. With a smirk, he complains that the fighting setting is a bit too exaggerated. Impatient, the lad tells his opponent to hurry up and just start the duel already. Helios then unleashes his green power aura, getting ready for the battle about to start. He says the kid does not know his place and, with a threatening look, asks if he is ready. Zeke mocks the statement and says that if he loses, he will call him white idiot forever. With eyes glowing with rage, Helios promises he will silence the kid for good. From afar, the audience watches the two getting ready for the duel in the middle of the deadly arena. They wonder what Zeke is thinking, because if he loses, he will be kicked out of the family. Grika, who is also watching, stays completely silent with a very worried expression. Suddenly, everyone in the crowd feels a powerful presence and goes into shock. To everyone's surprise, Lord Gilgren himself appears to watch the duel. Helios is surprised by the unexpected arrival and calls out to his father loudly. The other siblings are also startled and start whispering that their father showed up there. The instructor then orders everyone to be quiet due to the house lord's arrival. In the arena, the two face each other silently, now under the watchful eye of the powerful Gilgren. With a hateful look, our hero thinks the scoundrel finally showed his face to him. All the other siblings kneel immediately as a sign of respect and fear of their father. Even Helios kneels in the arena, showing his respect and submission to his father. With a smirk, the villain watches them and tells them to show what they can do. Our hero thinks this duel is just one step closer to reaching Gilgren. With a determined look, he swears he will uncover all of his enemies' secrets. The instructor then asks the Lord to ring the bell and start the day's entertainment. With purple energy in his hand, he agrees and tells them to enjoy the duel to the fullest. With a snap of his fingers, a wine glass appears and shatters on the floor, starting the duel. With that, Helios draws his golden sword and readies himself for the first strike of the fight. Our hero just gives a smirk, waiting for his opponent's move in the arena. The green-haired lad unleashes his power aura and focuses for the upcoming combat. With the sound of the shattering glass, the battle between the two finally starts in the arena. Helio's eye shines with determination as he charges at Zeke without hesitation. Wasting no time, he attacks head-on using a green spike technique. His sword is wrapped in energy spikes, showing the power of his special ability. With a quick move, he tries to land a direct hit on our protagonist in the arena, but the reincarnated warrior blocks it and mocks his opponent's impatience on the very first strike. He then taunts him, asking if he is trying to show off for his daddy over there. Helios manages to dodge the counterattack by nimbly jumping over our protagonist. In mid-air, he readies an attack from above with all his strength and combat speed. Our hero notices the counterattack and defends the blow without any hesitation. The green-haired lad continues his combo with a spinning attack of energy spikes. With a focused look, he tries to pressure our hero with continuous, fast strikes. Their swords clash and a test of strength right in the middle of the battle arena. Zeke taunts in, asking if he likes next that much, calling him a jerk. The audience stays quiet, watching the smoke from the battle without understanding what is happening. Grika is shocked and wonders if the one fighting is really the Zeke he knows. Suddenly, a massive explosion of energy goes off in the middle of the battle arena. Helios then replies he is mistaken and that it is not about liking necks. With a furious look, he says he just wants to slice our hero's cheeky mouth. The audience is shocked to see a yellow mana aura coming from Zeke's body. Someone in the crowd yells that the boy's mana is level 4, surprising everyone. From the impact of the strike, the two are pushed far away from each other in the dueling arena. Our hero manages to recover in mid-air and prepares for the next move of the fight. Helios then fires a massive blast of green energy toward his opponent. The reincarnated warrior faces the massive attack coming his way without backing down. The energy blast rushes forward with the intent to end the fight once and for all. But using his skill, he manages to defend against his brother's powerful attack in the arena. After the strike, a large cloud of smoke rises, and our hero remains standing in place. He then scans the arena and seems to be thinking up a new battle strategy. Zeke admits that Helios' mana control is good for his age and that it is level 4. With a smirk, he thinks it is not bad, but it still lacks something. Suddenly, an aura of lightning and fire wraps around our hero, unleashing immense power. Helios is left in complete shock seeing the sudden power shift from his rival. The audience is also left speechless at the boy's absurd display of power. With a confident look, he asks if Helios thinks that style will work against him. The green-haired lad stares at Zeke's new power aura, not knowing what to do. Our protagonist then taunts him, calling him a hysterical white rose jerk. We then see the two power auras facing off in the middle of the battle arena. Helios gets annoyed by the taunts but is also confused by his new power. He repeats he wonders if his fighting style will work against someone of the same level. With sword in hand, he challenges him once more with a mocking smile on his face. The audience yells in shock that Zeke's mana level is also 4, unable to believe it. Grika says Helios is one thing, but seeing Zeke with this power is unbelievable to him. From his balcony, Gilgrim watches the two power auras clashing in the dueling arena. With a smirk, the villain seems to be really enjoying the whole situation. He watches the fight with a satisfied look, as if everything is going according to plan. Gilgrim observes the fight and says that isn't right because something is off with Zeke's power. With that, he orders the boy to show the power he is hiding underneath all that mana. Helios is shocked and confused because he cannot understand what is happening with his rival. Angry, he asks why Zeke's mana level is 4 and where this power came from. The green-haired lad then wonders if by any chance Zeke also received Gilgrim's blessing. Our hero turns serious and repeats the word blessing, with a look of disdain and confusion. With a mocking smile, he asks what kind of story is that, and if Gilgrim prayed for him. Helios gets angry at the lack of an answer and says the kid won't talk at all. Mad, he tightens his grip on his sword, getting ready to attack with everything he has now. He yells that he won't accept this, because the only one chosen by that person should be him. With a look of pure hatred, he adds that he is the only chosen one and no one else. A massive green energy aura surrounds him as he prepares for the next attack in the arena. With his power, he creates several giant spikes that rush toward our hero. Our protagonist stares at the spikes and calls them disgusting tentacles with a smirk. With a look of pure hatred, the green-haired lad screams for our hero to meet his end. Without a second thought, he leaps into the air and charges head-on at the reincarnated warrior. The green spike attack rushes toward the hero with impressive speed. But with his skill, he manages to dodge and deflect the attacks using his sword and agility. From afar, Belle desperately screams her young master's name, afraid of what might happen. Our hero uses the spikes as stepping stones to jump in close in on his opponent in the arena. He thinks the rival's attack is precise and alters the mana shape with minimum waste. Meanwhile, his own mana is leaking everywhere, and the consumption is very intense by comparison. He realizes a drawn-out fight puts him at a disadvantage and that he cannot use his techniques. With that, he jumps into the air getting ready to use a new strategy against his opponent. The warrior then thinks that maybe this is not the time to play around and needs another technique. He then remembers this technique is similar to Kilchi's swordsmanship and decides to use it. With a determined look, he announces the fourth form of Kilchi's swordsmanship, Hound's Cage. Helios taunts him, asking what is wrong since his movements are too slow now. The green-haired boy then wonders where all that earlier momentum in the fight went. Without hesitating, he charges in, yelling for his attack to hit the enemy with full force. Our hero is surprised, eyes wide, seeing the speed of the rival's attack. The protagonist takes a direct hit from the attack, and his body is thrown backward from the impact. A massive explosion of energy happens, and our hero is tossed far back. Even after getting hit, he manages to recover in mid-air with a look of pure determination. With an annoyed look, he clicks his tongue in frustration at being caught off guard. From his balcony, Gilgren watches the scene with a serious expression, totally focused on the fight. The villain seems to be analyzing every single move of the two boys in the deadly battle arena. Suddenly, Helios realizes he has been caught in a trap and is stuck in energy spikes. He calls out to his father with a look of despair as he realizes the situation he is in. Angry, he says he is the only one who receives that person's affection and won't give up his spot. Our hero then asks how he can like that scoundrel of a father so much in the end. Helios ignores him and says this is the end as he prepares for his final attack in the arena. The green-haired lad charges from above with his energy spikes. But our protagonist does not back down and prepares to face the attack head-on with his sword. With a look of pure determination, the reincarnated warrior faces the challenge fearlessly. In his mind, the image of his past self appears, and he tells himself this is the right way. A memory from his past life shows him fighting multiple enemies with his sword. He remembers he always fought like that, without worrying about tiny details. To him, there is no need to think meticulously as long as the power connects and wins. Helios is left totally shocked and speechless seeing what is happening in front of him. Our hero then unleashes all his power in a devastating attack against his opponent. With a look of shock, Helios wonders what on earth that energy he is seeing is. The audience is shocked by the explosion of power and wonders what is going on in the arena. Worried, Belle calls out for her young master, terrified of what might happen to him. Gilgren just grumbles from his balcony, not caring much about the scene unfolding. Our hero's sword glows with an intense golden energy at that moment. Wrapped in an aura of fire and lightning, the lad unleashes all his hidden power for battle. The audience wonders what strange form Zeke is using to fight Helios. Helios is left completely speechless at his opponent's new power form in the arena. With a smile, the warrior tells the white rose to grind his teeth, because he is going to prune his thorns. Our hero's energy takes the shape of a giant golden scythe, surprising everyone. The green-haired lad is shocked and wonders what the heck he is seeing in the arena. Our protagonist then tells his opponent to grind his teeth once more for the attack. With a determined look, he says he will clear all of his rival's thorns in the battle. The green-haired boy is completely paralyzed with fear at Zeke's power. Wasting no time, the reincarnated warrior charges in with his energy scythe to attack. Helios stays frozen, wondering once again what that thing he is seeing is. The protagonist jumps into the air for a devastating aerial attack against his rival in the arena. The strike creates a massive explosion that destroys part of the battle arena in an instant. The crowd cries out in pain as they are blown backward by the devastating power of Zeke's attack. They wonder what destructive power that is, and if that is really the Zeke they knew. Scared, Belle can only whisper her young master's name amidst the dust. Wrapped in flames, the warrior faces his opponent with a look of pure victory in the arena. Fallen on the ground and panting, Helios can barely move after taking the powerful hit. He wonders if the kid copied his technique, because the form change was really ugly. With a smile, our hero tells him not to fool himself, because he is the hunter in that fight. The green-haired lad grinds his teeth in anger at Zeke's taunts in the arena. He gets up and says it does not matter if he is a weed or not, because he is going to fight. With a furious look, he challenges him to find out who the strongest of the two is there. Without a second thought, the lad charges at our hero with his spikes. The protagonist faces him with a serious look, ready for the counterattack and to win. The two clash in a battle of green spikes and golden energy in the middle of the arena. Helios cries out in pain as he is pressured by our protagonist's absurd power. With a smile, our hero says weeds are stubborn and grow back again. This means he needs to completely pull him out by the roots to win the fight. The green-haired boy tries to defend himself, but the golden energy is much stronger than him. After the smoke clears, Helios is down, and our hero stands completely victorious. Lying on the ground, he complains that his rival's fighting style is vulgar and lacks technique. Even defeated, he keeps glaring at our protagonist with a look of pure hatred. With the smoke settling, he looks at the balcony and sees his father's figure watching everything. The villain stares at him with a cold expression, totally indifferent to the duel's result. To everyone's shock, Gilgren looks away and stares at our protagonist with interest. With tears in his eyes, the green-haired boy calls out his father's name in despair. The arena falls silent as father and son stare at each other from afar in that tense moment. Grika notices his father is looking at Zeke and cannot believe what he is seeing there. A tear rolls from Helios' eye, wondering if he was perhaps abandoned by him. In his mind, he sees the two of them together and despairs at the thought of losing his position. With a face full of tears and hate, he screams that he will not allow that to happen. He says he is his father's special one, the only one to receive his affection, and that he needs him. Our hero just stares at him with a serious look, not caring about his brother's drama. With totally dark eyes, he screams that he is the only one who can stay by his father's side. Our hero is totally shocked by the transformation and wonders what that is. Suddenly, a strange purple slime starts oozing from Helios' body in a bizarre way. Seeing the slime, the reincarnated warrior realizes he has seen that somewhere before. Helios' body starts transforming, and he says he is the only one who can merge with Gilgren. With that, he turns into a muscular being with purple markings and an evil smile. Our protagonist then remembers the question about the blessing and realizes what that is. The green-haired lad starts screaming in pain and calls his father's name in despair. His hand tightly clenches, and he seems to be feeling unbearable pain in his body. He then lets out a scream of agony as his own spikes wrap around him on the floor. With the transformation, his sword falls to the ground, and he seems to lose control of himself. With a look of pure hate, he glares at our hero and swears he will finish him right there. Without thinking twice, he charges full speed at Zeke with his green spikes. The two then clash in a battle of power in the middle of the deadly, dueling arena. With a furious scream, he tells our protagonist to fall once and for all right there. The reincarnated warrior feels the pressure of the attack and struggles to block the strike. He then realizes that power doesn't fit in his body and curses that scoundrel Gilgren. With that, he remembers the A-rank beast and how the villain is even messing with humans. The two continue exchanging blows in a clash of green and golden power auras. With a smirk, our hero calls him a pitiful jerk for getting into this. Annoyed, Helios yells back and asks what he means by pitiful now. He then says his spikes are an honor, representing his father's expectations and love. With redness dripping, he screams that his father's love will become his thorns in the fight. But our protagonist cuts him off, saying it is nothing like he thinks at the moment. He explains that with his skill, he could have reached the top on his own without help. With a serious look, he adds that the lad profaned his own potential as a swordsman. Helios is speechless for a moment, unable to answer our hero's words. Angry, he yells at the kid to shut up and says he did it all for Gilgren. The protagonist then says he is going to cut down that cursed thorn he calls the White Rose. Wrapped in his golden aura, he charges full speed at his opponent in the arena. From the impact of the strike, Helios' body is thrown back with his spikes breaking. From afar, Belle and the audience watch the scene, shocked by our protagonist's power. With a victorious look, he tells Helios to clean himself up and come back to fight another day. The green-haired lad's body is tossed forcefully out of the battle arena. The audience falls silent, unable to believe Helios was actually defeated by Zeke. Grika and the other siblings are completely shocked by the result of that duel. The arena is left wrecked, with Zeke standing and his opponent down outside the ring. The instructor approaches and thanks Gilgren for his work as he stands up. The villain just looks at him sideways with a serious and totally unreadable expression. From the arena, our hero stares at the balcony and sees his greatest enemy is about to leave. With a hateful look, he swears that one day he will cut that scoundrel to pieces. As if hearing his thoughts, the villain gives a slight smirk before turning around. With a dark face, he then turns and starts walking away from the battle arena. With the fight over, our hero walks up to the fallen and defeated body of his brother. He then kneels beside him to grab what he came for in that duel. With a quick movement, the kid takes his brother's badge, which is now his. He says that, as promised, he has taken the proof of passing and bids farewell to his rival. Barely conscious, Helios manages to whisper the first letters of his father's name. With his final strength, he calls for Gilgren and says but cannot finish. Our hero then advises him to live his own life and calls him a darned brother. As the duel ends, Gilgren's instructor floats toward our hero. He congratulates him on his assignment to the lower division and calls him Zeke, Sama. The man with glasses says he will brief him on future matters later and tells him to rest. With a look of disdain, our protagonist clicks his tongue and tells the guy to mind his own business. The reincarnated warrior glares at the instructor with a look of pure hate and irritation. Suddenly, he feels a terrible pain and drops to his knees on the arena floor. He then realizes it is the side effect of mana consumption and that he cannot avoid it. The man with glasses just watches him silently with a cold and indifferent expression. The boy keeps feeling severe pain and can barely stay standing in front of the instructor. With clenched teeth, he curses his situation for not being able to control his body. But before he falls, Belle appears and holds him in her arms with a worried look. Surprised and blushing, the kid can only whisper the maid's name. With a gentle smile, she thanks her young master for all his hard work in the duel. The scene then shifts to the mansion on a rainy and very gloomy night for everyone there. 3 days after the duel, we see an empty, dark hallway in Gilgren's great mansion. Our hero is in a library reading a book near the window while the rain falls. Finding nothing, he forcefully shuts the book and complains there is nothing there either. He then thinks he has already searched all the libraries in the mansion with no success, and that he still cannot find a single clue about the secret of Gilgren's power. The lad reflects that even at the starting line, he still cannot see the first step. With a determined look, he thinks there has to be some kind of clue somewhere. Suddenly, 3 guys show up and mock him for reading alone like a total loner. With an irritated look, our protagonist asks what those idiots want with him now. The leader says he heard he beat Helios by pure luck and they want to test his strength. Zeke asks if it will be 3 against 1 and complains that this family is always like that. With an evil smile, the bully says that if they beat the guy who defeated Helios, their reputation will rise. The 3 unleash their mana and charge at our hero inside the library. With a battle cry, the group's leader tells his buddies to go all out. But with a quick move, the reincarnated warrior manages to stop the first one with a strike. Next, he hits the second guy with the same speed, surprising everyone. And without giving the third one a chance, he defeats him with a clean hit to the face. Fallen on the floor, the bullies say he is strong, but the hero tells them they are weak. With a bored look, he says he already forgot it and that this kind of thing is not for him. He then decides he will find a loophole in a direct fight against his enemy. The lad orders one of the guys to clean up the mess and says he will leave them alone for now. The bullies on the floor call his name and he turns around asking what they want. Suddenly, Belle appears and says she was looking for him and he just calls her Belle. Annoyed, the young lady asks what he means by just and he apologizes awkwardly. She then warns that Lord Gilgren is calling him and he needs to go to his room. Hearing this, our hero's eye fills with determination and anticipation for the meeting. A purple aura surrounds him, and he thinks that finally, this took way too long. With a serious look, he just says a right and gets ready to meet his father. Right after, he stands in front of a large, imposing door inside the grand mansion. With a determined look, he thinks he is finally getting closer to his goal. He then walks down a long, dark hallway toward his enemy's room. On the way, he runs into 3 of his brothers, walking in the opposite direction. Grieco recognizes him and calls his name with a surprised and slightly scared expression. One of the others calls him a cheater and complains he is late for the meeting again. The same guy keeps provoking him, calling him a gloomy jerk and saying he ignores him. Our protagonist just ignores them and keeps walking with a very annoyed expression. But suddenly, a blonde guy stops in front of him and stares at him with a very serious look. Our protagonist watches him in silence as he turns around and continues his path. With an intrigued look, he wonders who that weird guy in the hallway could be. The reincarnated warrior then thinks there is definitely something off with that lad. He keeps walking in silence but with a nagging feeling about the meeting. Arriving at the end of the hall, the instructor calls him and guides him into his father's room. Inside, the man with glasses sincerely thanks him for his efforts in the recent duel. Gilgren just nods, and the instructor says now that he has joined the lower division. With that, the Lord has a direct order for him, and our hero accepts with a smile. The lad says he will accept whatever, and the order is to defend the frozen land for 6 months. Shocked, he asks what he said, because he thought he was going to serve by his father's side. The instructor explains that there are times when he can serve, but he only promised direct orders. In his mind, the reincarnated warrior is furious because that is basically an exile. He mentally shouts that if he is sent far away, there is no point in any of this for his revenge. The man then reveals that a ritual to increase Gilgren's power will take place in the ruins. Our protagonist is surprised and wonders what kind of ritual this would be in the end. The instructor explains that because of this, Gilgren will not appear on the front lines for 6 months. And Zeke's mission will be to eliminate magical beasts and clear dangers before the ritual. The kid stays quiet, just processing all the information he just got. With a new plan in mind, he decides he will simplify things to win. Gilgren then says that if he completes the mission, he will put him even closer to him. With a smirk, the villain asks what he thinks of the proposal he just made. Our hero gets thoughtful and wonders what even closer could mean in the end. The man with glasses warns that the intermediate division is already there and he must cooperate. The warrior then thinks he does not know what whim this is, but it is not a bad deal. With that, he accepts the mission and swears he will make Gilgren regret those words. The scene then shifts to a carriage in a snowy landscape, and the driver says all right. He then warns that this is as far as he can take them with that carriage. Suddenly, the driver gets startled by something and lets out a surprised yell in the middle of nowhere. We then see Belle accompanied him and complains she is freezing in that cold place. Annoyed, the lad asks why she followed him and says he could have done it all himself. She replies her duty is to serve him to the end, and he asks if she plans to perish. The driver says goodbye and warns that the ruins are just ahead and the weather is a danger. Belle is amazed by the snowy landscape and says it is her first time seeing a silver world. She then notices smoke coming from her mouth and wonders if she is sick in that cold. Far away, we see a ruined castle as Belle calls for them to hurry over there. In winter clothes, our hero walks through the snow with his face covered to protect himself. The young maid falls behind, struggling to walk in the deep, soft snow. He then stops and asks if she is okay and where all that energy from before went. Falling on the ground, she apologizes and says she did not think it would be so hard to walk there. With a worried look, he says that is enough for today and they will stop to rest. Inside a cave, the two warm up by a fire to chase away the night's chill. Belle sighs with relief and says she can feel her life returning with the fire's heat. He then scolds her for underestimating nature and says one slip could cost her life. The young lady asks if it is his first time in the snowy mountains, and he says it is his 12th. Surprised, she looks at his luggage and asks if all of that is winter clothing. He then pulls out a heavy coat and says he brought it so she would not catch a cold. The lad tells her to wrap herself in the coat and sleep because they will leave very early tomorrow. With a flushed face and feeling emotional, the young maid can only say, "Young master." Suddenly, a strange light shines in the distance amidst the snowy landscape and darkness. In the cave, the young maid rests peacefully near the fire, keeping them warm. Meanwhile, our hero stays awake, wrapped in a thick and very warm blanket. He remains in silence, just watching the flames, thoughtful about what is to come. He then thinks the girl does not know the region is full of dangerous beasts. And if nothing has changed, the Gruzik tribe should still be around in the area. That gang of criminals rooted in these lands deals in illegal weapons and people. Their brutality made them infamous, and he will never forget their grotesque masks. His mission is to eliminate threats, so to him, that means people like them, not beasts. Suddenly, the boy feels something strange and goes on high alert about the situation. From afar in the blizzard, he notices something is approaching out there. Out of nowhere, an arrow flies his way, and he catches it mid-air with a quick move. The mana arrow dissolves in his hand, and he gets ready for the fight about to start. With a serious look, he realizes the attack came at him full force without warning. He understands this is not a beast but a much more dangerous enemy. With a smirk, he braces for the fight and stands up to face the threat. Several lights appear in the dark, revealing many enemies closing in. Multiple mana arrows are fired at him in a coordinated and lethal attack. But with his agility, he manages to dodge the strikes and use his cloak for protection. He keeps moving swiftly through the snow, expertly dodging the arrows. The warrior recognizes their disciplined formation and says they are an experienced group. The archers then get ready to shoot another volley of energy arrows. With a smirk, our protagonist seems to have a plan in mind to win. Wasting no time, he charges in and manages to catch one of the enemies by surprise. Suddenly, Bell yells the boy's name as he surrenders immediately to our hero. He then notices they are not wearing masks and are not from the tribe he thought. With a mocking smile, the guy reveals they are his new unit teammates, and that it was just a prank to mess with the rookie who just arrived. With a look of pure hatred, our protagonist does not seem to like the prank. A large man shows up and comments that the rookie seems to have some fighting skills. Suddenly, a woman riding a horse appears and apologizes for the rude welcome. She introduces herself as Perrier Proud, the commander of the house's intermediate division. Our hero stays silent and asks if she can repeat what she just said. The woman then calls him a pawn and says a low-ranking soldier shouldn't raise his head. With a smirk, the warrior stares back at the woman with a look of pure defiance. She then calls him pathetic for making her younger brother lose to someone like him. With that, she reveals she is Helio's biological sister and heard about the duel between them. The lad asks if she is there to avenge her brother, but she says it is nothing like that. She then repeats the family motto about the weak being a sin and the victors being justice. Our protagonist just grumbles, not caring about the commander's words. The scene then shifts to the next day, with Belle waking up and seeing the soldiers there. The two men comment that it looks like she finally woke up and watch her silently. Scared, the young maid screams and asks who all of them are in that place. The commander then mocks our hero for bringing a maid on a mission like that. Shocked, Belle recognizes the woman and calls her Lady Perrier, not understanding what is going on. The next day, the young lady asks what happened the night before, and he says nothing. He explains that the intermediate division commander just came to get them for the mission. Belle then comments that the woman does not look cold, and he says he doesn't know anything. In the background, the commander seems to notice their chat and glares at them seriously. The girl shivers from the cold, and our hero just watches her quietly in the snow. With the group assembled, the commander stares at the new recruit with a look of disdain. Suddenly, our hero feels something strange and goes on alert for what might be coming. The ground starts to shake, and a massive crack opens in the middle of the snowfield. Everyone in the group gets startled by the tremor and wonders what the heck is happening. Belle screams in fear, seeing the huge fissure opening up right in front of them. Out of nowhere, a giant creature starts emerging from the crack with an avalanche of snow and ice. The creature is revealed to be a giant serpent with purple eyes and a very threatening look. With an annoyed look, our hero complains that magical beasts are already showing up for them. With a smirk, the commander says that is perfect for what she wants to do. She then says since he beat her brother, he is there in a special spot just for him. With a challenging look, she tells him to show just how good he really is in battle. With a look of disdain, our hero refuses and asks why he has to do anything. The commander says she is his superior officer and needs to judge if he is fit for the unit. The giant serpent charges forward, and he clicks his tongue in anger at the whole situation. With a determined look, our protagonist says fine and tells her to watch closely. The giant creature attacks, and the other soldiers prepare for the battle about to start. The reincarnated warrior then runs full tilt across the snow to attack the giant beast. He jumps onto the giant serpent's back to try a new fighting strategy. With a focused look, he faces the beast's head and gets ready for the first strike. From afar, the commander watches him and mocks that he is only dodging the attacks. Annoyed, the kid yells that she is loud and tells her to shut up and just watch. Wasting no time, he charges straight at the giant serpent's head with his sword, but the creature attacks him with its tail and throws him far away with a powerful, precise hit. With a serious look, he gets ready for the next move and faces the beast head-on. In his thoughts, he stays quiet for a moment, analyzing the battle situation. He then notices the creature has scales with properties similar to titanium, and that a regular strike cannot cut them, which is why he needs a new plan. With a smile, he thanks her for the lecture and says in that case, he will do this then. With an aura of lightning, he runs rapidly around the giant serpent at high speed. The commander watches and realizes he is focusing his mana into his legs to fight. With a smile, she thinks he is not just there for show and that he has potential. With a powerful jump, our hero lunges to attack the weak points in the beast's armor. The clean hit makes the serpent cry out in pain as it is struck in its weakest spots. The commander then comments that it was not bad, but it is still not enough. The creature then attacks him with its tail once more with all its fury and power. The protagonist draws the beast's attention and lures it away from the group of soldiers. The serpent glares at him with a look of pure hate and readies itself for the final attack. Our hero then jumps into the air with all his strength for an aerial attack against the creature. With a mocking look, he says excuse me and prepares for the mercy blow. The commander calls him an insolent brat and asks if he is testing her on purpose. She then tells Belle to take care of her horse and gets ready to join the battle too. The woman charges in and manages to stop the giant serpent's tail attack with her spear. With a red power aura, she gets ready to show her true strength to everyone. With a single strike, she manages to plunge her spear hard into the creature's head. With a smirk, our hero thanks her for the help and prepares for the final strike. With his energy scythe, he says he will deliver the final blow and end the fight for good. Without thinking twice, he charges in and manages to cut off the giant serpent's head. With the creature's body on the ground, the battle finally comes to an end with their victory. Belle runs toward him desperately and calls his name with a very worried look. He says he is fine, but his coat got ruined and thanks her for bringing a spare. As the chapter ends, we see our hero's silhouette with his sword in hand, ready for whatever comes. The commander then praises him, saying he is not bad and at least he is not just any pawn. The lad gets annoyed and complains that she still treats him with disdain, telling her to just admit it. The woman tells him to follow her because her unit is waiting and she will take everything from him she can. With an irritated look, he warns her not to complain when he ends up stealing all the credit. Suddenly, the ground shakes once more and a giant foot steps in the snow, startling everyone. Our hero stares at the new threat and asks if he is the first one to show up around there. Next, a group of masked figures appears in front of them with a very threatening aura. The group's leader approaches and orders the kid to state his name, calling him a brat. With a smirk, the protagonist mocks them, asking if they are bandits playing night. The commander warns him not to get scared and run away, but the lad says he would never do such a thing. He then faces the enemies and shouts that his name is Zeke, proud for everyone to hear. The masked leader stares at him silently while energy bolts surround him in the snow. His subordinates also unleash their power, showing they are not there to play around. The commander is shocked to see their power and realizes the situation just got very serious. In an instant, they find themselves surrounded by dozens of masked enemies on all sides. With a serious look, the reincarnated warrior realizes they are completely surrounded. But the commander smiles and says they were going to hunt them anyway, so this saves trouble. He then mocks all the drama and asks which one of them will be the first to face him in battle. The commander on her horse stares at him with an expression of surprise and intense curiosity. With a determined look, our hero readies himself for the combat that is about to begin. Belle and the other soldier do not understand the boy's confident attitude at that moment. From afar, a solitary figure walks toward them through the blizzard and darkness. The group then notices the new presence and wonders what on earth is approaching. The commander smirks and comments that speaking of the devil, he actually shows up. The mysterious figure is then revealed to be yet another masked enemy from the Krujik clan. Afraid, the young maid and the soldier scream in terror at the arrival of the new monster. Our hero then throws his coat on the ground and tells his maid to stay calm and not worry. He realizes the Krujik clan is putting on a show and gets ready for what is to come. The soldier then recites a saying about a full moon and a great sword sleeping in the snow. He reveals they have been there for a year and that is the only clue they found about the treasure. The man says that is why he bets all of it does not even exist, and the young lady just nods. Suddenly, the reincarnated warrior feels something very strange and is completely shocked. With a surprised look, he realizes that a blade identical to his is nearby in that place. He remembers he has felt this over the past few days, and that his power and efficiency are increasing. But he thinks he lacked a vessel to handle his power, and if it is really there. With a determined look, he swears he will not let anyone else get their hands on it. The maid then remembers the name Chrono Gaius and tries to recall where she heard it. The commander explains those are the names of the two Gilgren defeated with his own power. With a smile, she adds that the feat of defeating them both is still a legend to this day. Annoyed by the story, our protagonist grumbles and holds a canteen in his hands. The woman says that if the sword of a legend is there, she definitely wants to get her hands on it. With an evil look, she swears she will not let trash like the Krujik clan take the treasure. Our hero stares at her with a serious and determined look, without saying a single word. He then starts pouring out the water from his canteen and Belle calls him, confused by his action. The soldier comments that he would love the chance to cross swords with this Chrono guy someday. One of the other soldiers jokes that coming from the captain, that sounds a bit weird to him. With an annoyed look, our protagonist just watches the soldiers chat in silence. The commander reveals their target is a secret treasure, Chrono Gaius' great sword. Hearing this, the reincarnated warrior is completely shocked by the major revelation. A memory shows that Chrono's sword has a sister blade that ended up right there. Our hero stays silent, looking very serious and irritated by the whole situation. The commander then gets the maid's attention and says she is going to tell her something interesting. With a serious look, she asks the young lady if she has ever heard of the Krujik clan before. The girl answers yes, and that they are a ruthless organization operating illegally. Perrier agrees and explains that those mountains are their territory, but they used to be small, and that lately they've been gathering members from various bases and tracking their movements. Belle is shocked and asks if they are not the ones who also traffic people in their business. but the commander tells her not to worry because they are not after people right now. The maid comments that the silence around them is scary, like time has stopped. She adds that it is colder than before and her breath makes white clouds. Our hero then explains the silence is because the snow absorbs all the sound, and the cold is because the air is so clear that heat escapes, turning it into a world of death. The young woman looks at the landscape and says that even though it is very beautiful, it is quite terrifying. With that, the girl gets curious and asks her young master when he learned all this. The boy replies it was Hannah, because she was an expert in meteorology and taught him. Suddenly, the reincarnated warrior's expression changes, and he seems to regret speaking. The maid asks who Hannah is, but he says it is nothing and tries to change the subject. A memory of Hannah flashes, with her saying she's counting on the sword Saint Chronogaius. Back to the present, the group continues their journey through the snow in a very tense silence. Our protagonist moves forward with a determined look, focused on his goal. The commander also looks focused as she leads the group through the frozen landscape. The other unit members walk in silence, alert to any danger that might pop up. Belle looks a bit scared and holds onto her young master's arm to feel safe. The girl comments that everything got very quiet suddenly, and the lad nods. With an irritated look, he scolds her, saying they're not on a picnic and tells her to stop. Suddenly, a memory of his past self pops into his mind, letting out a tired sigh. His wife Hannah approaches and asks what her beloved is doing at that moment. He stares at her in silence and calls her name with a serious and somewhat distant expression. With a gentle smile, the lady says he has been acting quite strangely lately. He then explains he finds it weird that his breath does not turn white and he is still freezing. With a smile, she replies it is obvious because they are higher than any mountain. She adds that in a dry and cold environment, breath does not fog up so easily. The warrior praises her knowledge, and the lady says she just read a bit about the subject. To his surprise, she reveals she read the books that were in his private study. He says he is an expert in combat, and she replies that knowledge can also be power. Back to the present, the Krujik clan leader demands the boy state his name directly. Our hero introduces himself and gives him two choices: either he meets his end, or he tells everything about the great sword. The masked man just stares at him in silence and says he understood what he meant. Suddenly, the enemy turns around and starts walking away, leaving the protagonist confused. Angry, the kid yells that he never said he could run away and tells him to come back and fight. The commander then calls him and tells him to forget those who turn their backs on the battlefield. With a smirk, she tells him to look because the others are more than ready to fight. With that, the other clan members draw their weapons and get ready for the combat to begin. A blue energy surrounds the enemies, showing they are quite powerful and dangerous. One of the masked guys gives an evil chuckle, getting ready for the upcoming attack. The scene shows the group completely surrounded by the horde of enemies ready for battle. With a confident smile, our protagonist faces the situation and says it is not bad. Worried, Belle calls to him, and the soldier tells her to stay back because it is dangerous. The commander grips her spear and says it looks like everyone is ready to fight to the end. With a yell, she orders her men to get ready because the weak will sink into the snow right there. With a battle cry, they all unleash their mana and get ready for the fight about to start. The commander also unleashes her red power aura, shouting with all her might. The two groups then clash in an intense battle amidst the snowy, icy landscape. The masked enemies smirk, completely unfazed by the display of power. Our hero also smiles and says they live up to the name of Intermediate Division after all. With a furious shout, the commander orders her men to charge full force at the enemies. With that, the battle heats up with several attacks and explosions all over the snowfield. The fight remains intense as the commander and her men battle the masked foes. One of the enemy archers gets ready to attack and curses the woman for her unexpected strength. But the commander just chuckles and mockingly tells the guy to stop laughing. With a powerful attack, she shoots 3 energy bolts from her spear at the enemies. With a determined look, she says she will not fall to an attack like that and calls them barbarians. The enemies are shocked by her speed and wonder what kind of person that is. The commander notices the boy's mana control is more precise than her brother Helios. The captain chuckles and praises Captain Perrier, calling her the Spear Princess. The other soldiers also shout in support, saying their captain is simply amazing. With a smirk, she loves the compliments and tells them to keep it up so she feels better. Our protagonist is left speechless and wonders what on earth is wrong with that woman. With that, the commander steps on one of the fallen enemies with an air of superiority and disdain. She then calls to him, asking why he is just standing there and telling him to at least do his part. With a look of disdain, she asks if by any chance he wants her to push him into the fight herself. With a smile, he says the offer is terrifying, but he will pass and unleashes his aura. The reincarnated warrior then kneels on the ground and releases a massive burst of power. The commander is surprised and realizes the boy can also shape his mana in a fight. With that, he fires a huge blast of golden energy toward one of the enemies. The masked guy takes a direct hit from the powerful attack and screams in pain from the impact. Our hero then jumps into the air with his fire aura, ready for the next move in the fight. The woman is impressed by the attack's precision and says he hit the target dead on. With a confident smile, the lad says the trick isn't half bad and he is going to borrow it. The soldier comments that the rookie copied the captain's technique and is not bad at all. The The commander is shocked, realizing the boy copied her technique after seeing it just once. Suddenly, one of the soldiers yells that more enemies are coming, and there are about 30 of them. In the distance, the reincarnated warrior spots the enemy cavalry approaching quickly. The kid then yells to Perrier that they need to retreat because they are outnumbered, but the woman mocks him, asking if the rookie is already losing his nerve in battle. With a shout, the protagonist says that is not the point, and the goal isn't to defeat them. He thinks he has no time to waste since he needs to grab the great sword before anyone else. The boy then adds that if they keep fighting, everyone is going to end up getting hurt. With a serious look, the commander glares at him and asks if he is holding back his mana. The reincarnated warrior is shocked by the question and does not know what to say to her. She then comments that the technique he used requires extremely fine mana control. The woman says not even her men can copy it so easily, and he did it on his first try. She calls him suspicious and asks if his mana pool is too small for his instincts. The protagonist gets tense and sweats cold at the commander's questions and suspicion. He then yells that she can figure that out later and that the enemies are almost on top of them. With a cold look, she says she will question him later and gets ready to fight. With that, she repeats she will interrogate him later and tells him to sit back and enjoy the show. Our hero is completely shocked by her attitude and asks what she is going to do. Without answering, the commander unleashes a massive red power aura, yelling with everything she has. The lad watches the commander raise her mana level 5 and gets ready for the attack. Belle and the soldier scream for Lady Perrier to stop, saying they need to retreat or they will all fall. But the woman just gives a little laugh and says that is a glorious sight for her. With a smile, she says taking out those weaklings is as simple as crushing the whole area. She then gets ready to attack, saying that is how the truly strong fight. The enemies are completely shocked by the size and power of the energy spear. With an evil smile, the commander orders all those insects to meet their end once and for all. Our hero complains that she really does not know the meaning of the word subtlety. Suddenly, he notices something weird on the ground and his eyes go wide in surprise. The warrior then realizes the ice floor is cracking right under their feet. Desperate, the boy yells for Perrier to wait because there is something right beneath them. But it is already too late, and she uses her lightning spear hammer technique with full force. The powerful attack hits the ground and blows several enemies away with the explosion. With a victorious smile, she tells the weaklings to sleep under the snow and praises House Proud. Suddenly, she feels the ground shake and wonders what the heck just happened. Angry, the protagonist yells that she is an idiot and that the ground is all ice and will give way. The commander is completely shocked by the revelation and does not know what to do at that moment. With that, a massive crack opens in the ice floor, separating all the warriors there. The woman is then swallowed by the crack, and the lad yells that she split the very earth. But our hero yells that no, it is actually a very deep and dangerous crevice. Desperate, the maid and the soldier scream their master's names in absolute terror. Without thinking twice, the reincarnated warrior jumps into the crevasse to save her. The two then start falling into the dark icy pit, not knowing what awaits them. The soldiers watch the scene and comment that the captain was swallowed by the earth itself. Looking at the depth, the soldier says that if they fell in there too, they would not survive. The young maid calls out for her master in despair while the soldier holds her at the edge. In freefall, the protagonist glares at her angrily and calls her a complete idiot. He says anyone with a brain would know what would happen, but she tells him to shut up. She defends herself, saying this happens when he copies her technique so easily. Our hero then taunts her, telling her to admit he is amazing and she was impressed. The commander gets annoyed by the taunt, and the two keep arguing while in freefall. Suddenly, the lad warns her to look because they are finally reaching the bottom of the crevice. He then spots a strange light down below and wonders what on earth that could be. The woman then warns him to brace for landing unless he wants to splat on the ice. With a confident smile, the lad says he would never make such a huge mistake. The two then unleash their power auras, getting ready to cushion their fall on the ice. With a battle cry, they use their energy to create a boost and land safely. Our hero unleashes a massive blast of golden energy to slow down his fall. With his fire and lightning aura, he manages to control his descent with great skill. The commander also uses her power, firing an energy blast at the icy floor. The two attacks collide with the ground, creating a massive explosion of light and energy. After the dust clears, the commander stands up and says they finally reached the bottom. With a look of disdain, our hero glares at her and calls her a muscle-brained maniac. He says he is starting to understand her personality and that for Helios' sister, she is quite rude. She then looks up and says now they need to figure out how to get back to the surface. The woman says they need to pick a direction and walk until they find a way out of there. With that, she says they are splitting up, each going a different way to look for an exit. He agrees but warns her not to raise her man again, asking what the signal will be. With a mocking smile, the commander slaps herself and tells him to listen for the sound. With an unfriendly look, the boy just nods without saying a word. Alone, the reincarnated warrior starts walking down the icy corridor looking for a way out. He gets closer and wonders what on earth this strange and mysterious place is. Using his sword, he tests the wall and notices the material is incredibly tough. The boy cannot tell if it is ice or rock, but it looks like obsidian and is even harder. He notes the winding river keeps going and that his blade only cuts if coated in mana. A memory of the commander flashes, and he realizes this is the place they were looking for. Suddenly, he senses a presence and gets ready for the combat that is about to start. With a serious look, he faces the new threat and said is not bad for an enemy. A Krujik clan member appears, and the protagonist complains he did not sense him until the very last second. The masked man stares at him quietly and asks who he is, calling him a brat. Our hero then recognizes him as one of the guys who ran away from the battle on the surface. With a smile, he introduces himself as Sheikh Proud and orders the enemy to tell him everything he knows. Without saying a word, the masked man charges at our protagonist with his sword. The reincarnated warrior faces the attack silently, getting ready for the fight about to happen. The enemy calls him a proud and says that is the hated bloodline that stained their honor. With a mocking smile, the lad taunts him for running away and asks what honor he is talking about. The masked man gets angry and says he does not like him and that those eyes really bother him. The protagonist then asks if they also came for the great sword and what they know about it. Our hero is confused by the enemy's answer and does not understand what he meant. Angry, the masked man tells him not to play dumb and says his revenge will not be stopped. He then swears that when they get the great sword and take down Gilgren, they will wipe out his clan. The lad is surprised and wonders if the enemy really plans to fight him right there. In his thoughts, the protagonist notes the guy really believes the sword can defeat Gilgren. He then realizes that this blade might be connected to his enemy's big secret. With a confident smile, the lad thinks this changes everything because he just needed a weapon. The two stare each other down with their power auras, ready to fight for the legendary great sword. With a battle cry, the two get ready to fight in the middle of the icy corridor. The two then clash in a battle of blue and golden power auras right in that spot. From the impact of the strikes, the ice floor begins to crack and pieces fly everywhere. The masked enemy uses his agility to dodge the attacks and leap across the debris. Our protagonist also jumps and uses his energy to create a pillar to attack from above. The two clash once more in an intense exchange of blows full of power and skill. The warrior and the masked man stare at each other with determination, ready for the next move. The battle continues with the two moving at high speed and trading powerful blows. With a serious look, our hero uses his agility to dodge and counterattack his opponent. He then realizes that this guy is much better than the others and his style is different. The masked enemy remains silent, just watching him with a cold, calculating stare. He wonders who this guy is and why his eyes and his sword are so familiar. Our protagonist challenges him, saying he does not know who he is but will find out through a beatdown. Suddenly, the icy floor starts to shake once again, surprising the two in the middle of battle. The lad gets annoyed and wonders if that idiot Perrier is up to something again. Out of nowhere, a giant three-headed serpent bursts from the ice floor with a powerful roar. The masked man recognizes the creature as an ancient magical beast that had been hiding there. Our hero realizes his enemy knows more than he is letting on and braces for the worst. With a new plan, the reincarnated warrior gets the masked man's attention for a chat. He then suggests they take out the creature first, as they do not want it destroying everything. The giant serpent glares at the two with its glowing eyes and prepares to attack. The masked enemy stays quiet for a moment, thinking about the lad's proposal. With that, he agrees to the plan and gets ready for the battle against the new, massive threat. But he warns that as soon as the beast falls, the next one to be defeated will be our protagonist. With a smirk, the kid just gives a little laugh, completely unbothered by the threats. The lad says that is fine by him, and the two charge together against the giant beast.